2x2, 7 rows deep.
And rolling up to the start-finish line. It looks like Asher going a little bit off track as the inside as they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn one, and electroshocks off. Eggful gets the move, but MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into turn row, it's a big crash. It's a big crash between the two title contenders.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome to Spain. We are now at the midway point of our prototype challenge here in the Catalonia circuit, and the competition is only getting more fierce. Hopefully everyone has the sunscreen and parasols ready, because this track, it is going to be hot.
Absolutely. I mean, unlike Fuji, I'm relieved that we're we're no longer in the rain. I believe our driver's also relieved, but again, these hot conditions are going to be another challenge to themselves, because remember, these guys have 8 tires throughout the whole session from qualifying to race, so they're going to have to play really smart to save their tire allocation or preserve their tires to last until the end of the race.
It's actually going to be a challenge for all of our drivers here, but it looks to be a pretty good challenge, not an insurmountable challenge for our current championship leader. That's going to be Robbie Kelly here in that beautiful yellow and white colored chicane racing car right there. And you can see all the way from the weather, it's going to be a scorching hot track at 32 degrees air temperature, 48.3 degrees track temperature here. You can already see from the little corners here as Robbie Kelly is going to be going through that turn 9 corner to the mid straight here, to how squirmy the car is even on this short practice session here before we go for our qualifying. So it's definitely something our drivers are going to have to be aware of, and also something that I kind of have to keep in mind for the qualifying, because I think at least the tires are going to be up in their temperature window pretty quickly, but how long they're going to be lasting, that's going to be the challenge that our drivers are going to have to tackle in the next 20-minute qualifying session.
Barcelona, a track known for plenty of medium to high speed corners, that's going to play a huge test to those tires, and definitely those tires are going to get ramped up quite easily, but I don't think they're going to last long. But Robbie Kelly so far with the fastest lap, but I feel like on everyone's minds, it's more about tire preservation and making these rubber last until the end.
It has never been a challenge in the previous rounds already, with the first round in Interlagos that already caused them issues with tire temperatures and tire management, and that's also going to be a similar situation here, because in our previous round it was in Fuji, which does give you an unlimited allocation of wet tires, so you could have potentially swapped out for a new set of wet tires in the previous race, which I'm not sure if anybody did. That's certainly an option here. This is not going to be an option here, because for now most of our drivers are going to be opting for one qualifying set, and they're going to do their qualifying run in that one set before they're going to be hopping over to a fresh set for the race here, which is going to be using your entire 8 tire allotment here. Now we're going to be keeping our eye on our other championship rival here. That's going to be Alexander Van Oude here in that pink Chicane Racing LMP2 car there. Looking at our championship table here overall, it's going to be Robbie Kelly still holding on their top spot here with 25 points, but right behind that's going to be Luis Adelina and Rafael Rodriguez, only a couple of points behind them. So it's been a very dominant streak of our results for Robbie Kelly so far, but we are still pretty early in the season here. We are only at the 3rd round here with another 3 rounds to go, so it's still very much anybody's championship to gain.
Yeah, it's still in the table for a lot of drivers. You have the likes of Adeline, Van der Wood, and even Alvarez, who looked like they had the pace, but I don't think they had much luck back then at Fuji. I also do want to point out that there's a new Le Mans Ultimate update. It played a huge overhaul into the tires of the LMP2. I mean, I'm not sure about the finer details, but from what I've heard, it's easier to warm up, which may play an advantage in qualifying, may not be easy for the race when it comes to conservation, but only time will tell with how these drivers will go on with tire management up in this new patch.
With how hot the track is in general, I don't think any one of our drivers are going to be struggling with getting their tires into their window here. It's going to be mostly about keeping them in that optimum tire window here, because if you are going to be pushing these tires a bit too hard, you might going to be scrubbing the surface on it, you're going to be overheating them, they're going to be then peeling off. That's going to cause a lot of issues for our drivers here, so it's going to be definitely another tire management race here. We're going to be keeping our attention here on Rafael Rodriguez, who is currently, again, P3 in our championship at the moment here with that crazy canine car. As we see, I think that's going to be Alexander Van Wood here pulled off over to the side of the track here, because we're going to be done with our practicing. This is going to be ready for qualifying, and I, for one, am not sure how many of our drivers have actually prepared for this race here, because it's been quite a hectic season, quite a hectic week for most of our drivers here, with lots of different special events. We had the Majors 24 Le Mans that some of our drivers were in, and I think some people might still be very invested in Forza Horizon more than Mod Ultimate.
I mean, to cap off that, we also had the Monaco Grand Prix earlier, which I don't want to play any spoilers, but it was quite a race in itself, and I feel like everyone had their eyes peeled on the screens to watch this race, see how it goes, even though they were predicting pretty much a 78 lap parade. But I mean, it's racing, anything can happen, even in a track like Monaco.
Anything can happen indeed, but that was a different organization, a different live stream, so we can just focus on the much better, much more higher quality live stream here over at our Simufur commentary booth here. So still waiting on a couple of minutes before our last drivers to finish their current laps here before we're going to be heading over to our qualifying here. And do you think anybody's going to be having any chance of contending Robbie Kelly for the pole position?
I would say the likes of Alvarez or even Adeline have a shot at qualifying. I mean, they've been out there. They've been trying to get on the tail end of Kelly, but it's just ridiculous as the drivers kind of bump into each other. Not what you want here in the pit lane. But yeah, I do believe the likes of Adeline. I think my favorites are Adeline and Alvarez when it comes to giving Kelly a challenge.
Now, definitely something interesting to watch here. We're now watching Adrian Newt here, who managed to be the first driver of our grid to get onto that pit exit light there. Everybody was queued on the pit exit there, waiting for the green light to come over here. So there was a minor bit of contact, but hopefully nobody got any damage from that. We'll have caught that here. Now we're going to be seeing our drivers try to immediately launch themselves on a fast lap around here, trying to get those tires warmed up into the window here, because these cars still do not have any tire warmers in our series here. So they still need to work a little bit to get them into their optimum working window here, and then get going right away here. It looks like Adrian Newt is not wasting any time doing that.
I mean, luck for them, Barcelona is a track full of medium and high-speed corners, which allowed them to scrub the tires, to let them build up temperature as much as they can. That's the good thing about a track like Barcelona. It's easy to get those tires warmed up with all the long, mediums to high-speed sweeping corners. It's just a very great track when it comes to tire warm-up, but for tire preservation, that's going to be a whole different challenge. It's going to be really hard to keep those tires under optimal temps and not go overboard, because look at those corners. It's just a lot of chances for those tires to scream and beg for help. Not a lot of brakes besides, you know, the main straight and then the back stretch between turns 9 and 10.
That's probably not something Adrian Newt is going to be concerning themselves right now, as they're going to be launching themselves down that final corner here to start their first lap around the circuit de Barcelona, whatever that called names. I don't know what it is. Anyway, we're going to be on our lap here now. It's going to be Adrian Newt here just launching themselves on that main straight here, trying to find the right braking point for a heavy braking zone into turn 1 here. It's going to be that fast right-left corner here. Going to be slowing down into second gear here, coasting on that inside curve here. Again, right away on the power here. Almost full speed there throughout the entire to turn 2, and then again a little left into turn 3 before the other going to be again slamming on the power, using all the aerodynamic grip on that Oreca 07 LMP2 car here before they're going to be shooting themselves down into turn 4. Long sweeping, slightly tightening right-hand corner there, again coasting nicely on that power, using that aerodynamic grip to their advantage before they're going to be finding their grip break point into turn 5 there, again slamming hard on those brakes down all the way down into second. Really late apex on this one here, trying to get that power optimally here. It looks like they got themselves nice and steady here. Now it's going to be a fast left-right turn again here through turn 7 right away into turn 8. They're trying to cut that inside line there as much as possible without bouncing on that inside sausage curves too much here. Looks like Adrian is still on a good run here. It's going to be now a little bit of a lift here going through turn 9 before they're going to be heading over to the mid straight underneath this big, beautiful red bridge there before they're going to be finding the breaking point for turn 10. It's going to be that sweeping left-hander. They're going to be carrying out as much speed as possible there. Go swinging all the way out wide. They've got rear tires screaming for life there before they're going to be swinging all the way around again for turn 11. They're again just trying to find that car to rotate a little bit more. They got themselves right on the exit curve. It's going to be a final bit of lifting for the turn 12 and then another lift for turn 30 before they're going to be completing themselves a very fast and a very controlled lap around Catalunya here. It looks to be a very, very good lap. Yes, they're going to be crossing the finish line any second now. That's going to be an opening lap of a 129.8.
A little bit wide on a few corners, but Newt has a lot of time to make up ground and optimize the lap. Of course, these guys, I'm not sure how fast the warm-up is on the new patch, but it may take around 1 to 2 laps at this point with how hot it is and how much corners you can get to scrub the tires. So Newt, definitely a lot more time on the table still, but so far they're out in front with provisional pole by a huge margin, as likes of Adeline, Clifford, and Thomas put up a time, but they're still quite a ways below.
It looks to be a very strong opening lap, nevertheless. Yeah, they're still over 6/10 up from Luis Adley, who is currently sitting on the P2 spot there with their 1:30.5. So it's currently only Adrian Newt who has themselves a sub 1 minute 30 lap time here at the moment. So we're going to be watching very closely as these cars are going to be lapping themselves out now on a couple more laps. And I also heard some strategies where some drivers might actually be waiting until the very end of qualifying there before they're going to be doing their own lap, just to maybe hopefully find an empty spot on the track here, or just to minimize the tire scrub on their tires here, because they're going to have to at some point use those qualifying tires maybe for the race here, or they're just going to start with a complete fresh set of tires for the race session here. So a lot of different strategy choices already in the qualifying session, as we're going to be keeping our eye on Luis Adlin here again, nice and tidy through turn 11 now into 12 and then into 13, where there is no infamous chicane, because that chicane was quite a controversial part of the Catalunya track here. So in the modern version of Catalunya, that's no longer the case here. So you can see our drivers are very, very, very thankful for that, because they just shoot themselves down full speed into that corner.
Yeah, I don't think that chicane will bite well with these LMP2 cars. They're more about these medium to high speed corners. Not sure about the low speed stuff, because I think they're gonna have trouble if those chicanes existed, but thankfully they don't. But Adeline so far not yet showing a time. I believe she's still trying to warm up the tires, as Eduardo Alvarez has recently stolen pole position by 1.3 seconds, so a lot more time left to gain for these drivers.
Tires have definitely fired up on Eduardo Alvarez's car here, and surprisingly enough, there is still no lap time from Robbie Kelly yet, so it could be that they have not gotten themselves a valid lap on the board yet, as we see Eduardo Alvarez caught in a bit of traffic around here. Again, for the qualifying session, you are not allowed to overtake a car that is on a valid lap at the moment here, so Eduardo Alvarez is going to have to just wait a little while here for these cars ahead of him to just get out of the way here, unless they are going to be deliberately backing out the track here, as they did there. I think it was going to be one of the backmarker cars. I'm not sure which one it is, but either way, let's get Eduardo Alvarez through to try to maybe chase through the next car ahead of him, as we're going to be switching our attention back onto Luis Ading, who's going to be trying to get themselves another improvement on board here. They got themselves really good green sectors in Sector 1 and Sector 2 here, so we're going to be watching very closely as they round that last corner here, shooting themselves back down the main straight to see if they can get themselves that pole position robbed from Eduardo Alvarez here. That's going to be that's going to be still 6/10 off the pole position time here, but that's going to be a very strong improvement, and the competition is getting tighter.
I believe that's the top 4 within less than a second. Not the qualifying order we saw from previous sessions, but those times are still going to be ramping up, as you see the likes of Kalmari, and oh, that was a close for Mooney, but I believe they're still on a charge. But yeah, I'm not sure with that Sector 2 time. I think they're warming up for another lap time.
Definitely looks to be the case, as we're now watching Adrian Luther trying to round themselves around for another lap. They actually got themselves a purple Sector 1 here, so they absolutely are finding a lot more time around here. And still no lap time from Robbie Kelly at the moment, who has opted to stay in the pit lane alongside Blade Wolf, Philip Vold, Fabio Sol, Smileface, Feeplant, and Wolfling Ravenloft, and absolute luck there. So they might be still waiting for the right optimal part of the track to actually get going here. Though that actually reminds me, all of these drivers who are on our timing here might actually not be racing at the moment here, because that is one of our usual LMU quirks, where if you have signed out of the race, as we see,
there's a spinner
spinning on the exit of turn 11 there. That's going to be a very bad spot to be on there. But thankfully they managed to just get out of the way here, not get in anybody's way here. But that's definitely not going to be an improvement from Adrian Newt there.
Yeah, that's not going to help Newt's effort at all when it comes to the tires as well, because those tires, I mean, it looks like they're pretty much been heavily worn from that spin. But as you see, Jurasek here currently P9, and as you did mention, Robbie Kelly, the likes of Robbie Kelly, Kagekio, and Beckevold, and Saul, who are opting to keep their lap times to the final dying moments. Now, it's going to be a really tough gamble here, because there's a lot of traffic here, as Jurasek does not want to get impede themselves in the way of, well, I believe that's the number 42 Echo car of Sierra Thomas, but thankfully, just in the nick of time, I think Jurasek could go for another one.
There's definitely a lot of time left on the track here to try and get improvement on their lap times. But the previous point I was trying to get to here, that in our timing here, that's going to be one of our weird LMU quirks here, where if you have signed out of the race but you're still in the championship results over, you're still going to be counted as an entry in our standings here. So some of our lower field drivers, I think that could be Ravenloft and Absolute Luck, that they might not actually be on the track here. We'll see for sure once we have everybody done with their lap times here. But I think another factor to consider is that the track limits seem to be quite strict here in Catalonia. I think that's probably going to be the biggest reason why most of our drivers at the bottom part of our track here have not yet got themselves a lap on the board yet. That was at least some of the comments I heard earlier in the week here as people were preparing for the rest session.
I mean, Catalonia, it's really easy to go wide into the runoff areas and just invalidate the lap time. So I don't blame it at all if they can't get a time on our board, but that's just going to make things really tricky when it comes to qualifying, as Robbie Kelly here coming out for what I believe is going to be their first of many qualifying laps in this session.
Yeah, we're going to watch them very closely to see how their sector times going to be. They are right on the edge of turn 3. They're heading into turn 4 there, so they're absolutely maximizing all of our track limits. We're not going to be sure on what their actual improvement is going to be compared to everybody else until they have completed their full lap around here. But they look to be pretty quick around this track at the moment. Yeah, just watching their car zooming around there and looking to be very nicely behaved as well here. So I think they just managed to find themselves the right spot on the track here to not be caught up in traffic and also be in clean air, so they're not going to be suffering from any dirty air.
Yeah, no pun intended, but Robbie Kelly absolutely lucky to just have clean air right ahead, and at this point it's just run out there and make some laps for the number 25 TGR LMP2 car.
Yeah, looking to be still very nice and tidy from Robbie Kelly in that LMP2 car there. Going to be running out through turn 11, now into turn 12, and then finally into turn 30 here. A little bit of a oversteer there moment into turn 11. They still kept themselves nicely and in control again. Right, all the track limits are heading into turn 12, maximizing those limits here, heading into turn 13, and just in the limit there to cross the finish. That should be a very good lap time here. It's going to be only a 1:29.5, so I think they're still waiting to get their tires into their proper window here. So I think this lap is going to be the one where they're going to be getting themselves the real improvement.
Yeah, 1.2 is not a bad shot. Robbie Kelly is indeed in the top 10, but look at that car. That is absolutely running the limits. That is a swift-looking race car for Robbie Kelly as they go on to make another lap. I believe this is going to be a better lap. Only time will tell with the sector times, but I think Robbie Kelly is going full push now.
Full push the entire way through with about 8.5 minutes left of our qualifying session to go here. So there's only going to be another 3 or 4 attempts left before you're going to be running out of time here. But Robbie Kelly is just going to be going full set here into every single corner here, right on the limit of turn 8 there, just brushing that inside Suzuka curve there. That's already going to be a 4/10 improvement in sector 1 here. Let's see how their improvement is going to be in sector 2 as they're going to be launching themselves down to that mid straight, heading into turn 10 here. Let's see as they cross the sector top. Yeah, it's going to be another 4/10 in sector 2, so that's going to be a very big improvement. That might not be enough to get themselves pole position, but they're going to be very close to the top there. So they're going to be rounding out through turn 10 into turn 11 there, skating all the inside there with a bit of lap traffic getting out of the way here, so no worries about them. It's going to begin right on the track limits, shooting themselves down the hill into turn 12, right on the limit there as well, hitting to turn 13 as well, just about keeping themselves within those legal track limits here. Going to be crossing them with another very, very good improvement here, but it looks to be a very nice move. It's going to be up into P3, but importantly enough, not pole position.
Robbie Kelly on the very edge, but it's not quite so far. Alvarez still on pole position ahead of Rodriguez by 2/10. So Robbie Kelly, I feel like they still might have a lot more time left in the table. They're still pushing. They're going for a third lap this time round, but I'm not sure. It's going to be really close between these guys.
Going to be very close indeed here. We still have a lot more cars left on the track here, but most seem to have already opted to head into the pits at the moment here. We see Alvarez, Rodriguez, Fess Fox, Adrian Newton, all of them in the pit like that. As we see, I think that maybe just track limits there for Alexander Van der Woode here, going on the exit of turn 9. That's going to be a very easy spot to get trapped this here, because you're motivated to get as much speed for this mid straight here before turn 10 as possible. So you're motivated to try and push those limits a little bit too much, and that's usually where we're going to be getting your off track here. So we're going to be seeing if they're going to be getting any more improvement. Now we'll be switching our attention to Sarah Van Fiebel there, who is also one of our other drivers who has not yet got themselves a valid lap on the board here. So we're going to watch very closely where they're going to be slotting themselves as they're going to be heading through Sector 2, now into Sector 3 here, through that sweeping left-hander, the Catalunya corner. You can see with big Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya text right there in the background there. Going to be in that not pink and white colored LMP2 car because they don't have the liveries for that, but it's going to be fine with them. They're going to be shooting themselves down fast, full speed, no matter what livery car they have underneath them as they're going to be heading through the main straight here. Let's see what kind of a lap time they're going to be getting as they cross the finish line any second now. That's going to be not the best lap time. It's going to be 2.7 seconds off the pole time here, so they definitely have a lot more pace to gain.
Yeah, Van Fiebelen not having the best races so far, but she's definitely trying her best, and she's definitely going all out when it comes to qualifying, as they're just outside the points. I'm not sure if we're still using the top 20 system, but there's still a lot more ground left for Van Fiebelen. A lot more ground as well for Van der Woode, who very close Sector 1, but Sectors 2 and 3, especially down turn 9, they did have a bit of trouble previously, but looks like it's clean right here. Now it's down to Sector 3 because Sector 2 is a little bit down. What can Van der Woode make in terms of the lap time? It's going to be really close.
I don't think they're going to be finding 8/10s in the last sector unless they find some very creative shortcuts around the track here, but we're going to be watching them very closely here. Down the hill to turn 12, now to turn 30 here, chasing another car right ahead of them, right on those limits of the track here, trying to maximize the exit speed heading down the main straight here, right on that wide line there where the track limits are there. Looks to be a small improvement. That's not going to be an improvement enough. They're still going to be keep themselves in P. They're going to be trying again for one more go here, I believe, because we have only 5 minutes left there, so I think that's going to be a maximum 2 laps, I'd say, before we're going to be running out of time.
Yeah, at the moment, the only drivers running laps right now are Alvarez, Rodriguez, Kelly, Jurzak, Van der Woode, Timber Fox, Rank, and Van Fiebelen, who has pushed herself into P16. So very great effort from them. Absolute luck. Kagekiyo, Nicholas Zahn, and Falzetta. So the rest of the drivers, I think they're going for thinking big picture, you know, just keep those tires as clean as possible. Don't put too much laps on them in qualifying, because the tire life matters a lot in the race.
Absolutely, indeed. And looks like we have Danny Smileface and Philip Beckerbold who have not opted to start this race. I think they may have been one of the drivers who have signed out of our competition here. But because of how LMU tracks our sessions here, they're still going to be showing all those timing standings here. But so that's going to be Sarah Embers, Daniel Falzetta still on the track and trying to get themselves more improvement on the track here. Keeping now our eye on Eduardo Alvarez, seeing if they can find any more improvement there. They are 700s down in Sector 2, another 10th down in Sector 2, so they're probably not going to be finding much more improvement around in Sector 3 here to get themselves improvement here. But who is improving? That's going to be Robbie Kelly. A good improvement in Sector 1, about neutral in Sector 2 here, so that's going to be all down into Turn 3. If they can find 3/10s in these last couple of the car is squirming. They're pushing all the way to the limits of the track there, the limits of the car there. So they're going to be all the way out on the white line here into the exit of Turn 12, now into Turn 13. Let's see, they're going to be unleashing that much power. They're not going to be too wide. That might just be track limits there. That might just invalidate their lap time here, and that indeed invalidate their lap time here, and they have now pulled over, decided that's going to be enough.
Yeah, I think Robbie Kelly opting to save their tires for the race, you know, just keeping them warm, because P3, not a bad position. Like, I feel like like last race, Robbie Kelly could find a way to clutch P1 over the race session, but another driver trying to make an improvement is Blake Wolf Kagakiyo, who just came off Sector 1 with a pretty decent gain, but Sector 2, only time will tell as they approach the straight. It's gonna be another gain for Blade Wolf Kagakiyo. They're gonna climb up the order as Absolute Luck dethrones them down one spot. Can Kagakiyo reclaim any position?
It's going to be very close here for Battlefield Kagakiyo to see if they can get themselves up in any more positions and get themselves back in front of Absolute Luck again here. They're going to be again right on the limits, heading into 12 and now into 13 here. Let's see if they can get that perfect exit. They just themselves just on the limits of the track here, so that's going to be a good exit for them. That's going to be a purple Sector 3, putting themselves up into P60 here, so a very good improvement from them. But I think they have one more shot here. We have 2 minutes left of the race to go here, left of the qualifying left to go here, so that's going to be your final shot here to get any more improvement. It's going to be not that many more drivers left here. We see also Rafael Rodriguez and Eduardo Alvarez, both of them just trying to pip each other for that top spot of the track here. They're only separated by 2 tenths here, so it still could be anybody's pole position here.
Yeah, my eyes are on Rafael Rodriguez here, really keeping up with Alvarez and trying to keep them under pressure, and it's a slight gain in Sector 1, but it could pay a big difference in the qualifying session as Rodriguez continues to cruise down Sector 2, putting that crazy K9 car on its limits and trying to dethrone Alvarez from that pole spot.
It's looking to be very good for Alvarez so far here. Apologies, it's going to be good looking for Rodriguez there. They only gained a couple hundreds in Sector 1, but if they can get a couple hundreds more in Sector 2 and Sector 3 here, that could be just enough for what they need to get themselves into pole position here. They're going to be crossing that sector line just about now. They are going to be 5 tenths down, so that's not going to be quite enough. That's not what they want there, but they still have one last chance, one more opportunity to improve that. They're going to be rounding out the final quarters here through 11, into 12, into 13 here. Let's see if they can get themselves right on the limit there. They got a good exit off 11. Can they get another good exit in turn 12? Yes, they can. Right on the limit there. Let's see, can they get one more good exit in 13? They're going to be right on the edge of the track here, and that's going to be right on the limit. I think that might be a bit too much, and that might have just invalid their lap time.
Yeah.
In fact, it did. So that's not going to be an improvement for Rodriguez. That's going to be a very weakly car for Alvarez as well, who has also tried their best to get more improvement on the track here, but with 2 sectors there in yellow, that's not going to be improvement. In fact, they're going to be heading into the pit lane to conclude their lap time, so it's not going to be only only Phil Reg, Absolute Luck, and Fouls that are left on the track here to try and get any more improvement. But it's only 20 seconds left to go here, so I don't think there's going to be any more laps we see on the board here.
Yeah, Alvarez Rodriguez decided that is enough, and that is our top 3 locked in. Alvarez Rodriguez and Kelly, but Absolute Luck here, one of the last drivers out on their qualifying session. I'm not sure if they're going to gain from that. They lost a lot more in Sector 2 than they gained in Sector 1, so it's all down to the final sector for the number 10 in P19.
Yeah, it's going to be all the way down to this final moment here for Absolute Luck. They're going to be shooting themselves down a lot. That's going to be very deep there, and they'll know they're going to back out of the race here. They're going to head to the pit lane here and conclude their lap time. So that was our final driver of our qualifying session here, cementing themselves in P19. So that's going to be qualifying over. Again, it's going to be Alvarez in P1, Rodriguez in P2. Rounding out our top 3, it's going to be Kelly in P3, and we have Fess Fox in P4. So that's going to be a very, very competitive top 4 for sure.
I'm hoping Fast Fox has better luck than he did in the last 2 rounds. They did not have the best of races for those previous races, and I feel like they're going to be looking to try and change that. They're going to try and turn things around, and I feel like this could be a chance for Fed Fox, but it's also a chance for the likes of Rodriguez, Alvarez, and Kelly, so only time will tell in how this race will go.
It will absolutely be a very interesting race for sure here, as they're going to be, again, doing a rolling start around that long main straight. It's going to be a very long main straight here, and with Robbie Kelly, he's actually going to be starting on the inside line, heading to turn 1, right behind Eduardo Alvarez here. So this could be an opportunity for Robbie Kelly to maybe use a bit of slipstream from Eduardo to try and get alongside and push Rafael Rodriguez out into P2. But we're going to see that in a couple minutes here, as we're now waiting for our drivers to line up for the grid and get ready for their formation lap.
Yeah, Barcelona, very interesting track. I feel like it's going to be very tricky, especially because you're approaching a right-hander that turns into a left-hander. So whether you're inside or outside, it's all about taking advantage of your position around these corners and just nailing it, but turn 3 is going to be really tricky on these tires. Anyways, as we look to our grid, we have pole position for Eduardo Alvarez starting alongside Rodriguez in that crazy K9 car. Robbie Kelly starts in P3 alongside Fez Fox. In P5, we have Adrian Newt with Rope Rotianen. In P7 and P8, we have Luis Adeline and Kamil Jurasek. And rounding off our top 10, we have Van Fiepland and Vanderwood. P11, we have Kellen Mooney sharing that alongside Timber Fox in P12. P13, we have Phil Rank starting alongside their teammate Parker Olsen. P15, we have Tyler Van Beek starting alongside Blade Wolf Kagekio with P17's Fury April starting alongside Fabio Sol. P19 has Absolute Luck and Sierra Thomas rounds up the top 20. P21, we have Nicholas Zahn. P22, we have Christian Clippert. P23 is Luis Gordon starting alongside Michael Ravenloff. P25, we have Danielle Falzetta starting alongside Sarah Embers. P27, we have, I'm not sure if they're racing here, but Beckevold and Smileface should round off, but it's actually going to be Embers and Falzetta rounding off our grid.
Beckevold and Smileface are not in this race here, so they're not going to be starting there. So it's in fact going to be Falzetta and Embers in the last spots of our grid here, watching these other 25, actually 24 LMP2 cars right ahead, and so they're hopefully going to be keeping themselves nice and orderly here heading into turn 1, because we remember there was an actual ELMS race held in Catalonia a couple of months ago, a month or so ago, I remember, and there was quite an interesting incident that happened into turn 2 and 3, so hopefully that's going to happen around our cars. So now it's going to be Alvarez here breaking off into the formation lap here. It's going to be a very short formation lap here, getting themselves ready for that launch.
I know what you're talking. I know the exact race you're talking about, and it's going to be, and even if it's going to be chaos like what we saw in that race, I'm not sure, but I feel like it's going to be a very thrilling race. We have Alvarez and Rodriguez who have been fighting each other for the qualifying spot. Robbie Kelly saving their tires for later and just opting to rely on the tire life of the race. So this is going to be a very interesting advantage to their strategy. Will they use the tire advantage, and will they make the most out of their current set?
We will see it over these next 80 minutes here as we see our drivers going side by side, 2 by 2 into the final quarter here, getting ready for our launch of our grid here. Every day is nice and orderly here, waiting for that green light to drop here. It's going to be happening fairly late on the track, so it's going to be a lot of time for our drivers to just get themselves positioned, prime themselves, wait for those green light to come here and ready to go here. We see everybody just pouncing, waiting. Their heart is beating. Our hearts are beating as they're going to be go full speed for everybody here, going 5 wide in the bracket as we see Alvarez and Rodriguez go here side by side into turn 1, followed immediately by Fez Fox and Robbie Getty. Actually, gets to be Robbie Getty trying to make a sneak up on the inside there, going 3 astern into turn 1. It's going to be Robbie Getty brave on those brakes here, but Alvarez is braver. They are making it through, but no, they are too wide.
Alvarez is wide.
The escape road here. We see even more cars going over the escape road in the background there as they're going to be trying to slot themselves way through. That's going to be Robbie Kelly assuming the race lead here with Alvarez in P2. It's going to be Rodriguez in P3, so not the best part for Alvarez here, but they're still going to be trying hard on their tail, heading into turn 4 here, into 5, but that's not going to be any more changes in position here. We see also Fesfox still chasing this pack here in the background, but it's going to be a brilliant start from Kelly all the way up into P1.
Robbie Kelly being a little bit patient, but also being a little bit brave, going down the inside of turn 1 as Alvarez goes wide and loses their pole position. And Rodriguez still behind, trying to find a vantage point to Rodriguez, but also Adrian Newt in the, Fez Fox in the mix as well, trying to get a chance on Rodriguez. So there's still a lot to play for in the podium places.
As we see even more fighting happening in the background there, we see 2 cars going side by side, heading down into turn 10 here. It's going to be a lot.
We have a spin from Fury April!
Thomas and Gary Jurasek. It's going to be 2 cars in the background there, off in the gravel trap there, actually on the escape road there. So that's going to be an unfortunate incident for Jurasek. I think that was also Fury April collected in that incident as well. So an absolute luck, having absolutely no luck at all there, as we're going to be seeing a replay of that incident right there. There's going to be a lot of different cars there trying to get themselves around. It seems like just April just outbreaking themselves and hitting Kamil Jurasek in the back of their car that caused themselves a lot of damage. So hopefully it's not going to be too much aero damage in the end here, but it's not going to be Festbox the fastest lap there, so Festbox is absolutely on a mission to try and get themselves into P1.
That might have been the concertina effect that caught out Fury April, and that's just really unfortunate. But I think they're still racing. They're still trying to make the most out of the session, but At the moment, it's Robbie Kelly stealing the lead from Alvarez, with Fez Fox making Rodriguez a little bit vulnerable right now. They're right on the rear bumper, and so is the likes of Adrian Newt, Alexander Van Wood, and Luis Adeline, who want a sniff of that podium as well. So the battle for P3 looking to spice up at the moment, as Fez Fox looking a little bit loose as they try to chase Rodriguez. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be a trade, but well, we're not sure yet, as we see that I believe that is Van Veeblen and Thomas.
We also see a replay of one of our cars here. I think that's going to be Luis Adeline. They're having an incident. No, that's not Luis. That is Wolf and Ravenloft. They're collecting the rear of the car here. Actually, yeah, it was one of these crazy Canine cars there, collecting the rear bumper of Christian Clipper there that caused themselves to slip down into the order. Yeah, that is indeed Sierra Thomas there that ended up slowing themselves down into the back of the field there. So unfortunate incident for them, but they're still in the race here, as we have Adrian Newt and Fez Fox and Edward Alvarez, all of them in the race here. It's going to be a really, really good launch for Fez Fox. That's going to be a chance for them to get right up alongside into turn 1 there. They're going to be shooting themselves on the left side there, trying to get themselves on the right side there now into turn 1. That's going to be a very beautiful send from Fez Fox up into P3, now to chase down Alvarez and Kelly.
That was a textbook dive from Fez Fox, really close, actually rubbing bumpers, and it looks like Rafael Rodriguez is vulnerable to the likes of Adrian Newt, who is sniffing that crazy K9 car and trying to find a position to find a gap, and that's dust kicking in. Something might have happened. That's someone wide, and that might have been a back marker. Yeah, that's definitely a back marker as the drivers continue on their race. And yeah, absolute luck, trying to give way to the others, not having the best of luck, as Fez Fox being fought back by Rodriguez. The position back from the charge into center. I think that you're vulnerable to Adrian Newt, who is just trying to find one. Yeah,
I think we're having some technical difficulties with a co-commentator here. That is okay, but we still have Fez Fox here just trying to chase down Rodriguez and Alvarez here in our lead group here. We see Robbie Gelly has extended the gap massively here into 6/10. That's going to be 2 seconds back from Rafael Rodriguez there, so the battle is going to be extending even more. The more of these cars they're going to be battling, the more the gap is going to be extending here, but that doesn't seem to be a concern for Fox or Newt or Wooden here, as they're going to be shooting themselves down the Macer here. It's going to be also a fastest lap for Phil Rank here all of a sudden here, as they're going to be in this whole slipstream train here, trying to get themselves a fastest lap of the session as well here. We're going to be watching Van der Wooden here, as they're going to be slotting themselves down through turn 1 into turn 2 there, just trying to get themselves right into the rear bumper of Adrian Newt. They're heading into that wide sweeping turn 3 here. It's going to be Adrian Newt really wide there compared to Wooden, that's keeping themselves to a tight inside line there, as they're going to be now chasing themselves, getting themselves closer and closer and closer, heading into now through turn 4 into turn 5, fighting to maybe thinking of a dive here, but no, that's not going to be happening just yet. They're going to be keeping themselves nice and polite right behind them. That can be waiting for another opportunity to happen, as we see even more cars fighting in the bracket. That's also going to be Murski Lohikar, that's going to be also Callan Mooney, that's also going to be Robert Rautiainen, and all the other cars they're also having another fight with it, as we see another incident, I believe, from Luis Goldern and Michael Ravenloft there. Not quite sure what happened. We're going to be seeing a replay of that just now. As we see,
already?
That's going to be Kamil Jurasek, I think, in the background. Not quite hard to see from the camera. Said
no,
that's actually Van not. That's Sarah Van Veeblen. That's Sarah Van Veeblen there, losing a lot of time though. So that's a very unfortunate incident from them. But I think we have our co-commentator back here to go back on commentary.
Yeah, apologies for that technical issue, but I'm back, and we're seeing Adrian Newt on the slipstream of Fez Fox. So it's not yet guaranteed, but these positions are really, it's just really hard to tell. We're forming up a little bit of train now. Barcelona has a little bit of a reputation for the lack of overtaking, but I feel like there's still a lot of ground to gain, especially with the tire preservation efforts that these drivers are trying, as Fez Fox still trying to get back on Rafael Rodriguez for getting back on him.
it is definitely a balancing act you have to think about here, because you need to push hard, you need to get ahead of the pack here so you don't get caught up in any traffic here, but at the same time you also need to be preserving your tires here. I think that's what most of our drivers are considering here, doing at the moment here, just easing back a little bit, not trying to too aggressively force any moves to happen here, and just trying to keep their tires and their cars alive there, as we see a bit more fighting happening between Kalmari and Robert Rauti, and that's also going to be Sarah and people right in the background there. Robert Rauti, that's actually really close to Kalmari there, shooting themselves through turn 9 into turn 10, so this could be an overtaking opportunity for them, as they're going to be using that slipstream, that tiny bit of slipstream they can get through, and going to be diving into turn 10. It's not quite enough for them to make that move stick there. Kalmari stays ahead, but there's also going to be a mistake. I think they're almost at Sarah and Fiedler going their way through, but no, they're still sticking there. Kalmari is still on the inside. They're trying to keep their position there with Robert Rauti going left, going right, trying to find every single opportunity to make there, but no, it's still not quite enough for them to make the move there. But Kalmari is under pressure. They're going to have to hold fast for this position.
Yeah, it's really close, but Rotiainen has the pace advantage, but that's a terrible launch on the final corner. They're going to be vulnerable to Sarah Van Fiepelen, who's looking to dive onto the inside line. Van Fiepelen looking to box in Rotiainen, but it's not enough. The number 935 car still remaining ahead and trying to get a nibble on Kalmari.
Yeah, looking to still be the same position order as we had before here. You'll see Phil Rank here in the background also joining this four-way fight for P9, actually P8 on the track here, as we see all of our cars are just trying their best. It's going to be very wide for Van Vliet there, maybe a bit of a mistake there that gave an opportunity for Phil Rank to gain a little bit more ground there, but still not quite enough to make any overtakes happening there. But you can see there's even more overtake opportunities happening from Robert Rauti. They're going to be trying to dive into turn 7 there. See if they can just about squeeze ahead there, but there's not going to be enough. There's going to be contact between the two cars there, side by side. That might not have been optimal. There's going to be
another contact.
It's going to be Robert Rauti push one.
And he spin!
They're off into the gravel trap there. They just, that is unfortunate. I think they were trying really hard, but they just got bullied off the track.
Yeah, a little bit of too much beating and banging, and Rotianen's out, and so is Van Vliet. Van Vliet has got a spin, trying to rejoin the track as quickly as possible, but a lot of chaos going on right now in the mid-pack, especially with the tires degrading, and a lot of drivers wanting to one-up each other.
I have to say that was very brave of Rauti trying to get around the outside of turn 9, so that didn't quite work out there. And unfortunately, they had themselves a race incident that cost themselves to speed up into the gravel there. But hopefully, not too much damage, so they can still keep going here. Now we're going to be keeping our attention now on this top fight here between Fesfox, Rodriguez, Newt, and Wuda here, going through turn 2 into turn 3. That's sweeping right-hander there. The gap seems to be neutralizing about between them. So I think all of them are just easing themselves back, just waiting for the right moment to pounce and just waiting for the mistakes there, because we have a huge 4-second gap from Fox to Alvarez and Kelly here. We're still only a second off from each other as well here, so I think this is going to be the gaps we're going to be seeing for the next couple of while here until maybe some mistakes happens.
Yeah, the top two are on a league of their own, you know, Alvarez, and that's Van Vliet again spinning. Back to what I was saying.
No!
Yeah, Alvarez was, I wonder what happened there. That was turn 4, I believe.
Yeah, we already see the spin happening at this point here, so I think we're just getting to the point here where the more spins you have, the more you lose the grip from your rear tires, which just makes further spins even easier to happen here. So I think Sarah and people might be in that hellish zone of just losing the tires on their car here, while it also not being early enough to actually make any pit stops happen there. So hopefully they can just keep going there and just keep their car on the black stuff for the next 1 hour, 10 minutes to go here. So it's going to be a long, long way for them to go here. But it's going to be a long, long way to go for these drivers who are still locked in their 5-car battle for P3.
Yeah, and yeah, as I was gonna say, Kelly and Alvarez are in a league of their own. As we see that's Jursek, I believe, spinning off a turn 10, going back on track. But now they're vulnerable to, I believe that was Sarah Embers. But back to this field, we have Phil Rank versus Kalen Mooney. Kalen Mooney looking a lot closer.
It's Rank actually ahead. Callum Mooney was ahead of Phil Rank and Sarah Van Vliet at one point. So now it's Phil Rank that also went past Tyler Van Beek, I believe, also at some point as well. So that something must have happened for them to overtake all of these cars here to get themselves up into P8. So I think Rank is the one to benefit the most from this entire chaos that happened between Robert Rautianen with Van Vliet and now with Moody as well.
Yes, so much going on. That's really hard to lose track, as Vanderwood looking a bit too close for comfort with their teammate, as Adrian New tries to tries to chase off, but Vanderwood not having the best exit, that leaves them vulnerable to Luis Adeline.
They are in a tight battle of their own there. Now, with these two cars being in the same team there, they're probably not going to try to aggressively race each other too much here. We all know what team gap meets are. We don't want to have any team gap meets happening around here as we got to be rounding our corner into turn 12, into turn 30 here. Who's adding trying to inch themselves closer and closer to these two team gap cars right ahead of Dragons versus Tigers. Who's going to be the winner of this battle here? We're going to be seeing themselves in this next hour here. We see that was a really good launch from Van der Woode here, trying to get themselves closer into Newt's rear diffuser here, but that doesn't seem to be enough distance for them to get any moves to happen here. It looks like the gaps are also extending between all the other top 5 cars here, so it's probably going to be a precision for a while. As we see another car that's going to be very April there, spinning around. I think that's going to be on turn 9 there, so I think they may have pushed a bit too hard here. We're going to see on the replay what exactly had happened. No, they're already off at that point, so I think it may have just been that they may have just pushed a bit too hard on the exit of turn 9. Yeah, they just pushed too hard on the exit, lost the rear of those tires here. Thankfully, nobody seemed to have been collected in that incident there, but those rears are going to be shot.
Yeah, I feel like we're at a phase where the tires are already starting to wear, and keep in mind, it's only 1 hour 7 minutes into the session. These guys have to think about the tire life because it's going to be a major player in this race as we see this train between ranked up until I believe that is Clipper tailing the train.
Yeah, that's going to be Tyler Van Beek and Phil Rank at the top of this train here with another 2 cars here. As we see that fight happening between Van der Woode and Luis Adeline there. Luis Adeline trying to get around on the outside, and we also see Newt and Rodriguez there. I think Rodriguez had some mistake as well, because that's going to be Newt up in P4 now, ahead of Rodriguez there. So that something must have happened between them as well here. Now we're going to be going down into the turn 12, turn 13 area here. I think we just missed the overtakes happening from there. As we see, that's going to be Rank also off in the gravel trap. I think they had the same mistake as Fury April did, where they just pushed a bit too hard on the exit of, I think that's turn 11, where they now just lost all the momentum they had. That is super unfortunate there. You can see on the replay right here what exactly had happened. Yeah, they just pushed a bit too hard on turn 11, lost all the ground they had gained in those last couple of laps here. Now they're going to have to do it all over again.
Oh, absolute chaos going on in this rear end pack as Van Beek and Timber Fox looking to duel one another, as I believe that is Van Beek now under pressure from Parker Olsen, who is looking to dive into turn 4. Will he go for the sanding? Parker Olsen on the inside. They make contact, and the both of them spin off into the track.
Oh, that is not how you make an overtake happen, Olsen. That is not how you do it. Now it's an unfortunate incident between the two of them, so hopefully they can still keep going there. They're pointing at a very awkward part of the track there, but that's going to be a concern for the stewards to think about later. We're going to be keeping our attention now on Van der Woode there, and Luis Adeline, as we see. That's Alvarez. That's Alvarez. Of our race here, all the way over into the deep part of the gravel trap, all the way in turn 10. That's going to be Vest Fox, assuming inheriting themselves into P2. They're going to tumble all the way down into P7 there. Let's see what happened exactly. We see now in this replay here what exactly had happened there. They're chasing down Robbie Kelly heading into turn 10 there, so maybe they just pushed a bit too hard. Yeah, they just braked too hard. They hit the wall and just rotate themselves around there. That's a hefty bonk in the wall there, so hopefully they're not gonna suffer too much damage from that. But that's gonna be Vest Fox now in P2 trying to chase down P1 Robbie Kelly, who is now 5 seconds clear of the whole pack here.
I mean, when I do want to say, when the rear locks up, it's like a handbrake turn, you know, just lose the rear. The rear just slips out. It's really hard to catch, so I don't blame Alvarez for that mistake, but really unfortunate for them as Van der Woode looking to get closer to Rodriguez, but they've been under pressure for a while from Luis Adeline, so Luis Adeline looking to pounce, so Van der Woode has to buy their time. They have to play smart and get the overtake done as optimal as possible. That's not a good exit for Van der Woode as Adeline hangs around the outside, forces Van der Woode on the inside line. Can she do it? It's going to be really close as Van der Woode defends coming off of turn 7.
That was definitely the opportunity to move there, but there just wasn't going to be enough space on the outside of turn 7 to make any move happen there, so Luis Adeline had to back out of that moment there. They're actually now falling into the arms of Alvarez there, who's going to be thinking about a dive into turn 10 there. That was a very brave move from them, but that was not quite enough distance to make that move stick there, so Luis Adeline keeping themselves in P6 so far, trying to chase down P5. of Alexander van der Woede here. The gaps are staying about the same here, heading through into 12, now into 13 here, now led by Adrian Root of this little gaggle of cars here, with Festbox extending the gap even further, when Robbie Kelly also extended these gaps even more between these other 5 cars.
Alvarez looking at the rear end of Adeline again. I believe Alvarez has a top speed advantage over the number 57, hanging around the outside. Adeline hanging on the inside, trying to fend, but Alvarez around the outside gets the job done.
That was a very good over-under move. Not over-under, just a good bit of overlap from Eduardo Alvarez. They are just about managing to carry the momentum through into turn 2 and squeezing themselves ahead. Now into P6, now to try to get themselves back up into the top 2 where they had originally been to try and chase down Kelly and Fox. That's probably going to be a very, very long mountain to climb here. They already have Alexander Van der Woede who also locked up their brakes a little bit heading into turn 5 here, losing ground on Rodriguez ahead of them, now tumbling that backwards towards Alvarez and Adeline, who are also right there with their own matching pace as well there. It looks like another bit of oversteer from Van der Woede as well, heading through turn 7 now into turn 10 there. They are just pushing the limits of that car to the maximum. That it's not going to be good on those tires. They're going to be suffering on pace. They're going to be suffering on speed there. That's going to be giving them an even further advantage for Alvarez to get around Van der Woede.
It's only been 20 minutes and these drivers are starting to struggle with the tires. The Barcelona heat is kicking in and these drivers, I don't think they're liking it. They want to push so bad, but these hot temperatures are saying otherwise. It's punishing them if they go a bit too hot. And as you see, Jurasek, who is off track, looking to, I think, rejoining and back on racing conditions.
Yeah, I think they may have had a contact with the wall there as well, so they might have some damage on that LMP2 car as well. It looks to be a little bit scuffed there. We'll see if we can catch it on this replay here. They're going to be rounding out that long right-hander of turn 4 there. They just go a bit too hard on the exit. They're pushing the tires a bit too hard. They did not have the grip for that, so they're going to be in a very awkward angle there, trying to get themselves going again there. They had a tiny bit of tap there, trying to get themselves around it. They almost beached themselves on the grass there, so thankfully they managed to get themselves going again. There didn't have to be any tow into the pits.
Yeah, these LMP2 cars, I don't know their steering angle, but it looked quite shallow, so it was really tricky for Jurasek to get back on track as Fabio Sol and Katie Timberfox looking to duel one another. Timberfox really holding their ground at the moment, but Fabio Sol wants to get past, so does Christian Clippert. It's going to be a tough battle holding off these 2 green cars for Timberfox.
Looks to be a strong defense from Katie Timberfox so far here, trying to defend from the 2 Germans right behind them, blocked in their own little battle as well there. So it's going to be all down to Katie Timberfox, keeping themselves in that right spot there to stay ahead as we see even more battling happening there between Christian Clippert and Fabio Sol here. It looks like they're still staying in a nice and orderly fashion there, so there's probably not going to be much moves happening so far here, but it looks like the gap is closing to Timberfox there, so if they can get a good launch into turn 13 here, this could be an opportunity for Fabio Sol and perhaps even for Clippert to get around Timberfox. We're going to be seeing what as they're going to be rounding out that final corner there, getting right onto the track limits here, but I don't think the gap is quite there for Fabio Sol to make any moves happen, so they're going to have to try again later.
Yeah, at the moment it's pretty much a neutral race, but it's really hard to make up positions here as Fabio Sol uses a lot of track. I'm not sure if that's track limits or not, but I don't think that matters unless you build up too much warning points. But Fabio Sol looking much quicker off of turn 3. Can they get the move done into turn 4? Fabio Sol still on the rear end of Timberfox, and I think, yeah, Fabio Sol has the advantage on the corners, but Timberfox just pulling a very excellent defense out here. Good defending from Timberfox so far here. We managed to hold off Fabio Sol's advance here, but the gap is still getting closer here. Fabio Sol is now applying the pressure on that American Fox there. We also see another fight happening between Alvarez and Van der Woede here, heading down into turn 10. I believe that they're going to be shooting themselves down. Alvarez on the outside, Van der Woede on the defensive inside line there. They're going to be an over-under and contact. Alvarez here. That was an oversteer moment from Van der Woede here, losing that position not only to Alvarez but also to Adeline. So one tiny mistake as they're going to be spinning again. Their rears are gone. That car has no rears anymore. I think they might be made of plastic at this point. Oh, Van der Woede dropping more and more. I think those tires are already toast. Now Van der Woede is now looking into damage control as we see Nicholas on. A lot of drivers losing off of, I believe that is turn 11. So yeah, turn 11 claiming a lot of victims today, as we see. I'm not sure what it is. That's Sarah Embers, who gone wide off of turn 7s and 8, coming back into 9 in pretty much a pristine condition, but everyone's tires are suffering right now.
It looks like the track is practically lava at this point here. Our drivers are going to have to play the floor is lava game at this point here to try and keep their tires from melting into the pavement here, but that doesn't seem to be a concern for Timber Fox or for Fabio Sol as well. We have 48-degree track temperatures here, almost 49 degrees here. We see Katie Timber Fox still trying their best to defend from Fabio Sol's assault here. They're going to be melting in the track here. There's going to be a good launch from Fabio Sol heading into turn 6 there, but that's not going to be enough momentum for them to get through into turn, so they're going to be backing out of that at the end there, but the pressure is on there. Katie Timber Fox is going to be sweating buckets in that car here, not just from the temperature, but from the pressure they're going to be experiencing themselves from Fabio Sol there, as they're going to be shooting themselves up through turn 9 now into turn 10, as we now see a cut back into a fight between Rodriguez and Alvarez here. We see Alvarez on the outside line there. They're going to be struggling for traction a little bit more than Rodriguez by comparison there. They're going to be under huge threat as they're going to be routing through turn 12 now into turn 30 here. There's not going to be a toll from Alvarez to Ruth there. Don't think the gap is quite there, so it's going to be a good launch from Rodriguez, but also from Alvarez here, so there's not going to be any swap in position here so far, but the pressure is on, the pressure is mounting here, and there's not going to be much more safety from Alvarez from getting the tow from Nude ahead of them. It's just going to be down to just pure raw pace.
At this point, these tires could boil water. I mean 48 degrees, that's almost 50. That's just, I just can't imagine racing on a track like that. It's going to be really crucial, very tedious. I just
That's
see
Rank.
Phil Rank, who's lost their rear wing.
That's Rank gone. That's a huge amount of damage from Rank there. I wonder what happened. We're going to see that on the replay there. I think that's going to be rounding through. I think that's turn 7.
That's turn 9.
Yeah, that's turn 9.
Turn
Yeah, they
9.
go way too deep on the exit there, bouncing on the gravel trap there and just hitting hard into the tire barrier in the exit of turn 9 there and losing the rear wing. That's going to be huge amounts of damage. They're going to have to limp it back into the pits to try and get them going here. Their car is grabbing. That car is damaged.
It's just that car is absolutely toast, and the only thing Rank has to do now is to just crawl that car's pit lane and hopefully let Kelly by, let the other cars by without any major damage, but only time will tell as the chaos goes on. Katie Timber Fox still ahead, but I think that was absolute luck letting go of the other drivers, but that is, I'm not sure, I lost track, but Fabio Sol on the rear end of Timber Fox trying to sneak in another move. They've been faster throughout the whole corners, but Timber Fox has been absolutely solid on their defensive driving, so it's making it really tricky for Fabio Sol to make a move and try and force that P8 car under pressure.
Looks to be a very good launch from Fabio Sol there to get closer into Katie Timber Fox's rear diffuser here, but it's not going to be quite enough for them to make a move happen here yet so far. Katie Timber Fox is holding on to their position here, as we see Vanderwood and Christian Clippert in the background there as well, having their own little fight, but I think Vanderwood just about cleared through Christian Clippert into turn 1 there. We just about missed that overtake happening there, but it looks like Vanderwood is trying to minimize the damage they had lost there. We're going to hopefully see a replay of that exact moment here. It actually looks like Christian Clippert just willingly just gave up the position to Vanderwood here, probably just realizing that this is not going to be their fight to concern themselves with, and they just decided to get out of the way of their teammate.
Yeah, Vanderwood is looking much quicker, but Alvarez hounding on the rear end of Newt, looked on the inside of turn 9, but thought better of it. They're going to try and make a move into turn 10, tucking into the slipstream. Adrian Newt, a sitting duck as they punch a hole, but it looks like it's enough. Adrian Newt still remaining ahead, but Alvarez with the overall pace advantage, trying to get past Newt, but Newt pulling off a brilliant masterclass in defensive driving.
Good stuff from Adrian Newt here so far, holding off the assault from Eduardo Alvarez here. Similar stuff from Rafael Rodriguez here, apologies. Trying to hold off the assault from Luis Adeline as they're going to be heading through to the main straight here. Luis Adeline got themselves a really good launch, but also did Rafael Rodriguez as well here, so the positions are going to be staying the same as we're going to be going through the main straight here, heading into turn 1 again here, so gaps are staying about the same here. We also see the gap has stayed about the same between Robbie Kelly and Fess Fox in the top 2 as well there, so it looks like both of these cars have just eased off their pace a little bit here, just trying to keep their car in control. They maybe have realized that there's a lot of cars spinning around them left and right and up and down, so they might just be trying to conserve their tires at the moment.
I mean, the likes of Fez Fox and Robbie Kelly, they have a clean clean gap ahead of them, so they have all the luxury to conserve their tires as much as they want. As we see a replay of Wolf and Raveloff, I believe that's turn 9, and that's just going very wide. Thankfully, getting back on track, unlike Xavier Rank, who had a rough time at the gravel. So great to see them pointing the right direction still.
As we see also a yellow flag happening from Daniel Falzetta in the back of the pack. Yes, they just went off the track as well. They also rejoined the track on the exit. I think that's going to be the exit of turn 9 as well here. So that's proving to be a very, very tricky spot of the track. As we can look at the cars here, I also see a fight happening between Sarah Embers and Parker. Also heading side by side into turn 1 there. Parker also just about squeezing ahead of Sarah Embers and into P17. He goes right ahead of Sarah Embers here. So I think Parker also was also one of the cars that got collected in early inside there. So they're also on a recovery drive at the moment here, trying to get themselves back up into the position they were originally.
And Parker Olsen on a recovery drive. They're up in P17 as Fabio Stahl. This battle has been going on for quite a while now, but Katie Timberfox pulling an absolutely phenomenal effort to keep the number 43 car behind for this long, but Timberfox looks like a sitting duck right now, ducking into the inside of the track as Fabio Stahl tries to go around the outside. Ooh, a late switch from Timberfox, but Fabio Stahl still can't get past.
Yeah, Kenny Timberfox is putting on a monstrous defense with that purple and silvery LMP2 car. They're trying to hold off the assault from Fabio Stahl. As we see another assault, that's going to be actually Edward out of his to get themselves through. Adrian Nude at some point, we missed that overtake happening here. That's going to be Adrian Nude also under threat from Rafael Rodriguez and Luis Adley in the background there as well. So I think Adrian Nude has just made a mistake at some point there. So Eduardo Alvarez managed to just about squeeze their way through. Now they're going to have to defend even harder from Rodriguez and Adley. That's going to be through into turn 9 there. Maybe Nude can hopefully get some slipstream from Alvarez to hold off the assault here. But the pressure is going to be mounting. You can also already see in the background there, Luis Adley is just going to be angling for a move there. They had a bit of peak there into turn 10 there, but no moves done here so far. So the pressure is mounting with the hot track temperatures, with the hot cars. It's going to be a steam cooker inside these cars, and so hopefully nobody pops here. Actually, the blade move, Kakagio there, off loose on the gravel trap. They're giving an opportunity for this is going to be Daniel Falzetta here getting around. Then so let's see if we can see on the replay what exactly had happened there. I think they may have also been a sufferer of these hot track temperatures here. They maybe just pushed a bit too hard on those brakes into turn 5 there, hitting all the way over into the gravel trap there, but thankfully no damage and they can still keep going.
Michael Kagakia looking to go back, but so is this train. Luis Adeline has been on a sniff on Rafael Rodriguez for a while, looking to put the crazy K9 car under pressure, but so far this train has been as is, besides Alvarez getting a pass on Newt, but Newt looking very vulnerable to Rodriguez, but I think Rodriguez still biding their time because they know they got Luis Adeline. If they do a mistake on the battle with Newt, they could lose the position to Adeline. So Rodriguez right now between a rock and a hard place, playing really smart right now.
Even Alvarez is getting away at the front there. They're just extending that gap 10th by 10th, second by second to Adrian Nude. The gap is now over almost a second at this point here, with Nude having no more slipstream to help themselves from the assault from Rodriguez and Adeline there through into turn 9 down to turn 10 there. I think Adrian Nude must gonna have to start working very defensively as we see a big swing from Adeline there, maybe trying to unsettle, maybe spook Rodriguez there, but Rodriguez had none of that. He just stayed on their line there and keeping themselves up in P5.
Rodriguez really playing clever right now, not making too much mistakes, because even though they're in such a stressful condition, that's just very phenomenal driving to just hold on to the rear end of Newt and try and find a pressure point while keeping up on a defense on Luis Adeline. So kudos to them for keeping up this pace.
Yeah, I think are definitely working well under the pressure here. It's probably a pressure cooker inside these cars here with how hot the track and the cars are. So hopefully they're all staying nice and hydrated. As we
That's
see
also
they've gone off into the gravel trap. I'm not quite sure where it is, but they have gone massively off there, and they're now stuck there. They're trying to get themselves around here. Let's see on the replay what exactly had happened. That's going to be heading down into, I think that's going to be turn 5.
Yep,
They
that
had
was a big lock-up.
Huge lock-up, swinging off into the gravel trap, and they just couldn't go anywhere. So they're going to have to go the long way around. They're doing a tempo turn. I think they may have just retired. I think they might just teleport to the pits there.
Yeah, I think that car's stuck, and that is game over for Parker Olsen. Really unfortunate to see, but we have the three-way battle between Newt, Rodriguez, and Adeline. This has been really close with no certainty on who's gonna get past, as we see Embers getting back on the track.
Yeah, we've seen so many retirements on the track here, so we've missed all of them. We've seen Luis Gordon, we've seen Absolute Lux, Sierra Thomas, Van Friedman also retired at some point here. Phil Renko also has retired from the track as well there with the huge damage they had from the rear ring of their car there. Now Philip Parker also is going to be the next car to join on this retirement train here, so a lot of retirement so far here, but we still have many more cars that are trying to keep on the track here. We still have this fight happening for P4 of the track here. A good launch from Luis Adelin there, trying to get themselves closer to Rodriguez's rear diffuser there, but I think gap is not quite close enough here to make any sense happen there. But you can see on Rodriguez's rear view mirror, the gap is going to be increased there. That's also going to be another off-track moment from Zahn there. I think all of our drivers are just suffering with this track temperature. It's absolute lava. I think they've just replaced the tarmac with lava at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to maintain the temps as we see. I think Vanderwood got between Timber Fox and Fabio Sal, as Vanderwood looking to make another move on Timber Fox. Look at them, absolutely on the charge and looking to make a dive into turn 4. Can they get a move done? They save it for later. So they're both still fighting. I think Vanderwood has the advantage in the corners, but here is Adelaide on the inside of Rodriguez getting the move done.
That was a beautiful move from Adelaide, getting from Adelaide into into P5 there. So also going to be a beautiful. Now it's going to have to just extend that gap even more and more here. Rodriguez tumbling down the order into P6 there. That's a far cry from the leading position they had earlier in the race there. So they're going to be kicking themselves for that mistake there, but they are not giving up. They are still going there, as we have also Van der Wood and Fabio Sol. They're also not giving up, trying to get themselves around Katie Timberbox here, but they are still holding on strong there. Van der Wood and Timberbox are former teammates there, but there doesn't seem to be any love lost between them. Vanderwood is going maximum attack, maximum push. They're trying to get themselves past Katie Timberfox there, but Katie Timberfox is having none of that.
Timberfox putting on an excellent defensive driving, not only against Fabio Sal, but against Vanderwood as well. Vanderwood having a little bit of a hard time trying to get past Timberfox, as Timberfox ducks into the inside line, trying to take the slipstream away, but Vanderwood using the momentum of that car, but that leaves them vulnerable to Fabio Sal, who is taking the slipstream. I think Vanderwood thought better to stay on the racing line, but I feel like there might be marbles on the inside, so that's why Timberfox is a little bit vulnerable, but at the moment, she's still ahead.
It didn't seem to affect her too much, and they're still holding on that P8 position here, apologies, as they're going to be rounding themselves into turn 4 now, heading into turn 5. They're a bit wide from Van der Wood here, and a bit wider from Fabio Sol as well, who has lost a bit of ground to the two cars ahead of them, but Van der Wood is going to be again clawing that back distance back again. They have lost quite a lot of position from those incidents they had earlier here, so they're just going to be trying their best to get further and further up ahead there. They're going to be vying for the best opportunity, as we see now a fight happening between Adrian Newt and Luis Adeline. That fight between the two Filipino drivers there happening very, very fast there. They're going to be heading through into turn 11. It's going to be Adeline trying to inch themselves closer and closer. They're going to be almost touching those diffusers, front diffuser, the rear diffuser here, heading through 12, now into 13 here. Led first by Alvarez, then Newt, then Adeline. It's going to be a drag race heading into the base right there. It's going to be a very, very good slipstream from Adeline. This could be the opportunity they're going to be needing to get themselves right around here. They're going to be watching very closely these two cars there, as they're going to be getting themselves closer and closer and closer, but I don't think it's going to be quite there. No, the gap is not quite there for Adeline to make a dive happen yet, so the gap is staying the same here, but Newt is definitely under pressure.
I do want to correct you, Newt is Indonesian, but they're both Southeast Asians. Yes. We're having a Southeast Asian battle here with Adeline and Adrian Newt. Adeline looking on the charge, and they look like they got the overall pace, but Newt just defending quite nicely, just keeping the number 57 Echo car under bay and just holding him off for as long as they can. But I think Adeline's pace is going to outlast Newt's defense, because they're on a charge as, oh, that was very loose from Adeline, but she's still pointing the right way around. That's what matters. A tiny wiggle of the rear here, not going to be good for those stars. As we get a bit of a wiggle from Adrian Newt there, that's going to be an opportunity for Adeline to get up on the inside into turn 9 there. They're going to go side by side to turn 9 there, but there's not going to be enough momentum for Adrian Newt. They're going to be staying ahead. It's going to be Adeline right behind them, but it's going to be another drag race into turn 10 here. But it looks like Adeline just lost the advantage of the momentum through turn 9, that they couldn't capitalize on that mistake. As we see another bit of loose moment from Adeline there. I think their tires are also going to be wearing at this point, and I think all of our tires are going to have to consider putting some new rubber on themselves once they get to the pit stop. I mean, these drivers have to be really careful with their overtakes because trying to make a bold move can be costly for your tires. Usually, it's better to save your energy, to save your tires for a move that you know will stick instead of the usual fighting we see. But we're loving it over here as we see Alexander Van der Wulf diving into the pit lane.
We also saw an overtake happening between Fabio Sol and Alexander Van der Wulf at some point here, but no. Kader Teambox still held on that position ahead of Sol and Van der Wulf both there. So this could, I think it's going to be down to the pit stop here to see who's going to be getting the better pit stop in the end here. We see now even more cars into the pit. That's going to be also Christian Clifford head into the pit here with Beek and Raudian also getting ahead of them now at this point here. So I think we're getting close to the point here where our drivers are going to have to get themselves some fresh fuel on the car. I think some drivers might be considering even fresh tires with how high the tire degradation is on this track.
I mean, we are in the halfway point, so it seems reasonable to come in for a fresh set of tires that are not as degraded, but I feel like some of these drivers want to brave it out. Some of these drivers want to go long and have the best tires at the dying moments, but it's going to be really tricky to manage those tires, especially in Barcelona. It's very hot, especially as we see Raudian going wide and getting back on track.
Yeah, Raudian did not get the best lap around there. But it's going to be, again, even more fighting happening between Timber Fox and Sol there. Kader Timber Fox forcing to take that defensive inside line into turn 10. They're trying to carry the momentum through to stay ahead, and they do. They stay ahead. Fabio Sol is trying to do their hardest to get around Timber Fox, but they're going to be holding themselves strong there. But with the more fighting they do here, the more advantage is going to be for Van der Wulf here, who is now in clean air with probably fresh tires as well. They can just lap in full speed, in complete peace here. So I think by the time the Timber Fox and Sol go into the pit lane, that could be Van der Wulf with an undercut inheriting the lead.
I feel like at this point it would be wiser to just help each other combat Van der Wulf than fight each other. But again, it's racing, so these guys are gonna give it their all, and they're gonna absolutely swing it out the ballpark. As that, I think Adeline ahead of you. Yeah, that's Adeline ahead of Newt, so an overtake might have happened, and now Newt is vulnerable to Rafael Rodriguez, hounding on the rear end of that TGR car, but looks like Newt has that cover so far, but Rodriguez with the pace advantage.
As we see Kamil Jurasik again going off into the gravel there and almost hitting the wall there, so I think their tires are going to be very much shot at this point, that they still have not done themselves a single pit stop so far, so they're going to just try to again hang on for as much as possible here. But meanwhile, the fight is still happening between
That's Adeline!
and Adeline. That's going to be also Adeline there. Going to be Adeline over the gravel there. All of our drivers are just suffering for pace. They're suffering for traction. We're going to see on the replay what exactly had happened between them. They're going to be chased down by Newt and Rodriguez in the background there, but I feel like
yeah, the mid-corner spin.
Just pushing too hard on the exit of turn 10 there, spinning off into the gravel trap here, so that is super unfortunate, and that's going to be all the progress they just lost.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Adeline, but this battle just hard to keep away from. Timber Fox and Sol have been at it for quite a long time now. It's still the same story. Timber Fox ahead of Sol, but Sol looking to try and make up the ground, but it's too close to call. Fabio Sol has the pace, but Timber Fox has been defending like a lion.
Defending like a fox, more like that, but they're still holding on their elbows wide, keeping themselves on there, and they also denying that slipstream from Fabio Sol on those main stretch here by ducking away into the inside line. They're close to the pit lane wall there, so that's going to be a marginal gain for Fabio, for TKD Timber Fox to stop Fabio Sol from getting ahead of them, and that still seems to be the case as they're going to be heading down into turn 5 there. And that might be a bit of a lockup from TKD Timber Fox. I'm not quite sure that, because Fabio Sol is getting really close now, heading through into turn 7 now into turn 8 there. They're going to be watching very close there. It's going to be going back to back through the crowd. They have to see some puff of gravel there from somebody. I think somebody may have got a little bit off track there. As you can see, I think there's going to be some black traffic ahead of them. I could also putting a bit of a gear in the wheels for Sol and Timber Fox.
But so far, Timber Fox has this under control, putting the car in all the right places and trying to get Sol on the rear end of her as much as possible. Timber Fox just has been handling that pressure with such bravery right now.
It has been a beautiful defense from Timber Fox here so far, and they're going to be keeping that position here so far. I think they're going to be staying in the in the race as well. They're not going to be heading into the pit stop. So for at this point here, it's going to be again weaving to the right here, but this time Fabio Sol is following there. Fabio Sol is going to be trying to use as much of that slipstream as possible there, and that's going to be the one defensive move that Kenny Timberfox is allowed to do as they're going to be heading back into turn 1 here. It's going to be still the gap about 5/10 of a second between them, and it's going to be just so much pressure for Timberfox there, but they are just withstanding that. They have nerves of steel at this point here to keep themselves not only ahead of Fabio Sol, but also of the gravel trap there.
Yeah, and I do want to point out that livery that Timberfox has. It's a tribute for a friend that they've recently lost, so rest in peace to them. And I feel like Timberfox is doing them proud with such an excellent drive. And that's Vanderwood. That's Vanderwood spinning. Unfortunate happening for them.
That's another spin from Vanderwood here, so I think once you get to those first spins here, that's just going to be causing even more spins further. It's going to be a vicious cycle. We see right here from Vanderwood that's going to be heading through. I think that's going to be, that's going to be turned down there. Just keep pushing a tiny bit too much. They couldn't save it in the end. They're just going to be spinning around very badly there. We also saw Robbie Kelly just lapping themselves at this point here, so it's going to be a disastrous race for Vanderwood here. Well, what is not going to be a disaster, that's not going to be Kenny Timberfox. They are holding themselves strong here. That's going to be a beautiful tribute for their friend here, as they're going to be holding on that soul from Fabio Sol again for yet another lap there, going through turn 11 into turn 12, now through into turn 13 there. There's still going to be not enough space for Fabio Sol to get close enough to get around Timberfox. Let's see if they can get a good exit off the main straight here. It looks like the gap is not quite there to make a move happen yet there, but they're going to be trying their best there. Fabio Sol following Timberfox through back to back. Only 2/10 of a second separating themselves as they're going to be shooting themselves down into turn 1 there. Looks like again Kenny Timberfox got themselves the better launch through turn 1 here, so the gap is staying the same, positions stay the same, and Kenny Timberfox holds on.
Timberfox putting an absolutely stonking effort still. It's been, I'm not sure, 10, 20 minutes, but regardless, Timberfox not yet, never cracking under pressure under Fabio Sol. No matter how much pressure Fabio Sol applies, it's Timberfox still remaining ahead so far.
That's also going to be something to keep in mind that Alexander Vanderwood actually was spinning, so the big rivalry they had with the undercut, that one's actually going to be neutralized at this point because they are going to be way too far back to consider, as we see a big pump of gravel happening between, I think that's going to be a lapped car ahead of them. That might be I think that could be Sarah Embers there at the ahead of them. That could be actually slowing down Katie Timberfox just enough for Fabio Sol to have a move happen, as we see also Blameful Kagakiyo again going off into the gravel trap. I think that's going to be into turn 4 there, where they just lost all the momentum, and that's going to be losing even more time. That's going to be coming Yorski trying to chase themselves down again. That's going to be Katie Timberfox through, and also Fabio Sol through Sarah Embers, so they're going to be keeping themselves in those same positions here. But look at that, the gap is only 4/10 as they're going to be shooting themselves down into turn 12 and now to turn 13. So this could be the chance that Kenny Timberfox or Fabio Sol needs to get around Kenny Timberfox here. But no, the gap is even larger this time around here. They had a really poor exit off turn 13 here, so the gap is still staying even larger now.
And Fabio Sol, no matter how much he tries, Katie Timberfox is still ahead, and I feel like it's getting on Sol's nerves. Like, oh no, that's Ravenel spinning. That's Ravenel pointing the wrong way. Well, quickly rejoining track, but back to where I was. Fabio Sol has been fighting for so hard, but so far it's not enough. Katie Timberfox put on a brilliant effort.
Really an effort from Katie Timberfox as we see that unfortunate spin from Wolfgang Ravenloff there. So unfortunately they're going to lose even more time there. Going to be now passed by Daniel Falacena there at the end there. But Katie Timberfox is absolutely not letting Fabio Sol get around them. They're not going to let them pass at all there, as we see. I think, is that Sarah Embers again in front of them? I'm not sure. That could be another car ahead of them. Actually, no, that is actually Caleb Moody right ahead of them.
Yeah, that's
going to be one of their rivals right ahead. Maybe trying to catch up to them as well there, but looks to be a very, very close battle now between Sol. They're going to be only 2/10 apart, heading through turn 9 now into the main back straight, into turn 10 there. It's going to be Kenny Timberfox keeping themselves on that outside line there, so now they're not going to think that Fabio Sol is going to make a dive there, and indeed they're not going to make that dive happen. So they're going to be again very wide on the exit of turn 10 there, so that's going to be again losing a bit more ground to Fabio Sol, as again Fabio Sol gets even closer to Kenny Timberfox, as Kenny Timberfox suffered a very poor turn 11 there, so they're going to lose that more ground here, but looks like they get themselves a really good launch through 12 and now into 13 here to keep themselves in the lead here so far. Yeah, the keeper still staying about the same there as they had last time around here, so I don't think there's going to be any overtakes happening this lap either.
But Katie Timberfox looking a little bit more vulnerable. Fabio Sol just a little bit inches closer, but still, it's not enough for Sol to get past Timberfox. Timberfox putting on a brilliant holding as they continue to race throughout here, as 33 minutes remain in the session, Katie Timberfox has been fighting for Saul for so long now.
I think at this point it's just going to be down to both of them just trying to lap as fast as possible. I think Katie Timberfox is trying to lap as fast as possible. And it could also be that Fabio Sol is just easing themselves back a little bit, not trying to fight Timberfox too hard there and just waiting for the pit stop cycles happen and then get an undercut happen at that point here, because the gap has never really gone larger than a second, but also no closer than 2/10 at any point there. So it doesn't look like Sobel is going to be making any moves, and that's also going to be Christian Clifford off into the gravel trap here. I think that's going to be on the exit of, I think that's going to be turn 10 again there. Going to be just in front of Adrian Nudes and Rodriguez. That's going to be a very poor exit from Rodriguez, because at that point they're going to be losing even more crowd into Adrian Nudes, who they were just chasing down there a couple of quarters ago there. So a very poor, unfortunate rejoin timing there from Christian Clifford, slowing down the cars ahead of them. But these two cars, Timberfox and Saul, they are not slowing down at all here. The gap is still 3/10 as they're going to be shooting themselves down to turn 12 there. Again, gap only 2/10 now through 13. Gap is still now 3/10, and that could be a lot better opportunity for Saul there. Saul got a really good launch on Timberfox there. They're going to be very, very close. This could be the chance that they've been looking for this entire race there. They might just be able to get alongside here. Let's go. It's going to be Timberfox staying ahead, but no, Saul is again backing out at the end there. They got themselves really close, but I don't think they're in any hurry to try to get around Timberfox at this point.
These two are really inseparable right now. I feel like Fabio Sol has the pace, but Katie Timberfox putting on an excellent defensive driving and just trying to keep Sol behind her mirrors. It's no matter how much he tries, it's just really hard to find a pressure point and try and get past, because it's just really difficult for Sol right now. I feel like if I were in their shoes, I would try and think about an undercut strategy.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely mounted between both. It's like a pressure cooker between these two cars there. I think something might be happening eventually if they just keep this close between each other here. If they keep trying to make those little moves happen every once in a while here to keep the pressure going here. So somebody might just slip up in the end here. So that could be the big release of pressure needed if they both just head into the pit lane there. It's again going to be a really close move from Saul. They're getting right into the rear diffuser of Katie Timberfox. That's going to be heading into turn 10 there. But again, no dive bomb from Fabio Sol. Fabio Sol is a very patient driver. They've always been known for this. They're just going to be staying right behind Katie Timberfox, just waiting for them to make any mistakes of their own there. They're not going to be one to make any silly sense of their own here, but it looks like that's Katie Timberfox is really, really well withstanding the pressure here. They're just pushing themselves fast enough to stay ahead. That's not going to be Saul finally heading into the pit lane here, releasing Katie Timberfox for now here. But now it's going to be the important thing: who's going to be ahead once the pit stop cycle is complete.
Yeah, Fabio Sol committing to the undercut as I predicted, as we see, I believe that's Van Beek, who I think just trying to get back on track. But back to Sol, all they have to do is go with their pit stop. I'm not sure if they're taking tires or not, but get that pit stop out of there and just push some laps to overtake Katie Timberfox in the pits.
You also see Robert Rauten heading to the pit lane as well alongside Tyler Van Beek here. So I think most of our drivers are now getting to the point where their energy is running out, that they need to consider putting themselves some more fuel into their cars at this point there. So with about 30 minutes left of the race to go here, I think most of our gaps have now solidified and extended here. So now it's just going to be down to who can be the fastest, who can be the most consistent, and who can keep their tires alive the longest to keep themselves going here. As we see, that's going to be Katie Timberfox also getting themselves even closer to Mooney. They're now actually within a second of Mooney here at this point. Yeah, so I think Mooney might just be suffering a bit from tire wear more compared to Timberfox. That's going to be giving an opportunity for Timberfox to get ahead. As we now see the leader of our race, that's going to be Kelly and Fox and Alvarez all into the pit lane at the same time here. So this might shovel the gaps a little bit by a couple of seconds here, but I think it's still got to be Kelly in the end, staying in the lead.
I feel like the decision on whether to take tires or not is going to play a huge factor to whoever leads coming out the pit lane. But here's Katie Timberfox diving into the pit lane and trying to get their strategy done. A little bit slide as she breaks for the pit marker, but hopefully she should have slowed down before the pit speed limiter.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fine that they're going to be just getting themselves some fuel on the car. I don't think they're going to be swapping themselves on new tires at this point, as we now see Robbie Kelly heading back on the track here. Callan Mooney and Alvarez did not do a pit stop yet, if I believe. Hold on, let me just double check my findings here. Yeah, it's going to be Callan Mooney and Eduardo Alvarez, Rafael Rodriguez, Vess Fox, and Katie now in the pit lane here. So it's going to be only Callan Mooney at this point here who has not done a pit stop at this point. So it's going to be a long time for Kalmari to get to the end here. But I think they're going to be hitting the pit lane very soon here. But we still see Timberfox in the pit lane there. They're going to be finally released there. Let's see where they're going to be compared in comparison to Fabio Sol there on the track there. We're going to be now watching themselves. It's going to be Fabio Sol heading on the last sector there. It's going to be still a really long pit lane for Katie Timberfox here. So anything could still happen here. It's going to be Sol trying to push as hard as possible through 12, now to 30 here. That's going to be a huge gap. That's a huge, momentous gap now between Timberfox and Wude. Now, in fact, Sol has to slot themselves all the way behind Wude at this point. So I'm not sure if they had a slow pit stop or they had to put on more fuel or something, but they had just lost massively in the pit stop here.
Sol might have also taken more tires than the rest of these guys, so that could be the reason why Sol's all the way behind, as Luis Adeline gets past Rafael Rodriguez going on the inside of turn 4 and still continue on their run. Now, they did have that spin, but they're slowly making recovery drive after that.
They're doing pretty good here at this point here, trying to get around. Now, Luis Adeline got themselves around Rodriguez. Now they're going to try to chase down Adrian Nude again here, and the gap could be shrinking down here. The gaps have been staying about the same here in terms of lap time. We're both of them doing about mid 130s here, so it's going to be now for the last couple of minutes here, last half an hour here. My correction here. We now see also a fight happening between Robert Rautian and Christian Klippert here for P11 of the track here. It's going to be a snap of oversteer from Christian Klippert on the exit of turn 8 there, getting a bigger opportunity for Rautian to get right away into the rear diffuser of Christian Klippert here. Looks like Klippert is not, they are holding on there, but no, actually never mind. They're going to be just holding all the brakes here and letting Robert Rautian get through.
Might be a little bit of slipstream games between the two. They're trying to help each other, but I mean, who knows? But it looks like it's a very great team effort between these two to be coordinated like that. But I do want to point out Robbie Kelly still holding on a 7-second gap, and I feel like Alvarez has beaten Fez Fox. Yeah, Alvarez has beaten Fez Fox in the pits, so Fez Fox now demoted down into 3rd place, but still on the podium. So that's a commendable effort for Fez Fox, especially considering the previous 2 rounds that they've had.
Yeah, I think looking at the pit stop times here, a lot of them are either in the 53 seconds or they are in the 1 minute 3 seconds here. So that could be a possibility that some drivers just opted not to do any fresh tires at all here, opting to just stay on that same compound of tire at the end here. Meanwhile, some of the other drivers who had longer pit stops are gambling on the fact that they're going to be getting a lot better pace out of those fresher tires here for these last 30 minutes and get around there. So we're going to be watching these lap times here very closely for these last 25 minutes.
Those fresh tires really had to make up for what I believe is a 10-second deficit in the pit stops, and it's going to be a very calculated risk if ever, because I mean, nobody knows if the used tires from the very beginning are gonna have as much pace as the fresh tires. But I'd say the likes of Fez Fox going for the gamble and trying to make those tires work, as we see Fabio Sol, who I assume also went for tires. That's why they're down on Katie and Vanderwood, but Fabio Sol looking much closer. Fabio Sol looking to have the pace advantage. Their last lap was Vanderwood's last lap was a 132. Their last lap not yet calculated for Fabio Sol, but they are currently hounding on the rear end, getting much closer and closer to Vanderwood. So the tire advantage paying a great effort as they go very wide. I'm pretty sure that's beyond track limits, but Fabio Sol still making the most out of their fresh set of tires to try and get past Alexander Vanderwood.
That is absolutely a warning for Fabio Sol for extending those track limits a little bit too hard there. So now it's going to be a defense for Alexander Vanderwood.
Wide.
That's also going to be a really good exit from Fabio Sol. They almost got around Alexander Vanderwood here already at this point here. So it looks like Vanderwood is just struggling with those old wearing out tires here compared to Fabio Sol, who has fresh rubber underneath it. And they look to be immediately paying dividends here. They're going to be shooting themselves hard through turn 9. There's going to be a very close gap between these two cars that's going to be heading down into turn 10 there. It looks like Fabio Sol is not trying to make an overtake happen just yet. As we see also a fastest lap from Fez Fox, another car who has finally got themselves a 1:29-minute lap time there. So that's going to be a potential for Fez Fox to get themselves back around Eduardo Alvarez as well here. As we also see Fabio Sol getting himself even closer to Vanderwood here. now into turn 12, now into 13. This could be the crucial exit they need here to get themselves a chance to get around Vanderwood. It looks like the chance is going to be there. The gap is only 2.5 tenths here as they're going to be shooting themselves down through the main straight here. It's going to be Sol inching themselves closer. Gap is shrinking it down to 2.5 tenths, now to 2 tenths. But I don't think it's not going to be quite there. The gap needs to be even closer, but the gap is not quite there to make a move happen there, so I kind of have to try again next lap.
Yeah, Fabio Sol has the advantage in the corner, so this could be the opportunity. It's not in the straights, but in the curve as they approach turn 3. Fabio Sol closing in, much closer and closer. Fabio Sol in a prime position to go for a move, but saving it for later, coming into turn 4. Fabio Sol thinks it's not good enough to make a guaranteed move, but they're on the rear end. It's inevitable that Fabio Sol tries and gets past Vanderwood, but Vanderwood holding on very strongly.
Vanderwood definitely defending very bravely from the German racing driver there, and it looks like Fabio Sol is not giving up though. They are still staying less than 2 tenths away from the Dutch driver here, heading up the hill through turn 9 now into turn 10. The gap is even closer than last time around here, so this could be the chance that Fabio Sol finally needs to get themselves around, but it's going to be both of them staying back to back through turn 10, so I think there's going to be almost collecting them on the Vanderwood there on the exit of turn 10 there. So the pace of it is absolutely there, but it looks like Fabio Sol is just not in any hurry to try and get around, and as we see a lot of smoke
loose from Vanderwood
there. Also on, yeah, that was, I think that's Summer Emperors there. No, that was, I think that's actually Christian Clipper as well who had a yellow flag there, but that's going to be not an issue for Vanderwood or Fabio Sol here, who are now even closer still through. It's going to be less than 2 tenths between these two drivers, so this is the ultimate chance. This is going to be Fabio Sol's opportunity. They're going to be slotting themselves into the inside line. They're hoping to shoot themselves around into the lead, into turn 1 there. It's going to be Vanderwood trying to hold on the outside there. They're going to be trying to cling out there, but there's not going to be enough momentum for them to get through. It's going to be Fabio Sol through into P9.
The tire advantage guaranteed Fabio Sol the move on Vanderwood, and now Fabio Sol has been released. Now all they have to do is pull a 9-second gap on Timber Fox, who they've been battling with for a while now. Will the tires take them to Timber Fox?
You're going to have to see that in these last 20 minutes of the race here. We also see a fight happening between Callum Moody and Rafael Rodriguez here. Rodriguez was one of the cars that had an incident and lost a lot of ground earlier here, but it looks like Rafael Rodriguez has a lot fresher tires compared to Callum Moody here. Callum Moody is trying to take that sweeping outside defensive line. They're trying to sweep their way through. Rafael Rodriguez got stuck on the inside line there, but they might just about squeeze their way through. They do squeeze their way through, just about carrying them enough momentum there in the bracket there. We also see Luis Adley there.
Drive through
for captain on this space as we see a drive-through penalty for Fest Fox. That's a drive-through. I think that could be for track limits.
Yeah, it might be the track limit violations. Fez Fox has gone wide one too many times, and the stewards have deemed that Fez Fox needs to have a drive-through penalty. I mean, the manual stewards, not our official Simufur stewards, but the game stewards have decided Fez Fox needs a drive-through penalty, and that's just gonna tumble them down the order, which is really unfortunate because they had good momentum. They had the podium position up until that moment.
Yeah, definitely not a good race for Rodriguez there in the end, but they still have another 20 minutes to try and gain some work around there, trying to get up to Nude, to Fox. And now with Fox getting a drive-through penalty, they might be slowing themselves all the way behind Rodriguez, perhaps even Moody and Adeline there. That's going to be one net gain here. So at that point, it would only be Nude they have to worry about there. If I'm going to be looking at our lap times here, Rafael Rodriguez has been lapping half a second faster than AJ Nude for a couple of laps at this point here. So I think that's going to be an opportunity for them, as we see Callum Moody here just easing on the brakes here, just letting Adeline through there into P5. So I think Callum Moody also realized that they're not going to be having much point fighting their fellow teammate in that other Echo Racing Team car there. So they're just going to be working together, trying to both catch up to Rodriguez and to Nude to get themselves up closer into the top 5.
I mean, with the tire advantage Rodriguez has, I think it's going to be really tricky for Adeline and Mooney to go through, but Adeline's a very quick driver, so I think she can hold on quite well. I'm not sure what strategy she took, but I think they got the pace as Fez Fox pulls into pit lane to serve their drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that's going to be Fez Fox tumbling down the order here. That's going to be Newt inheriting themselves the P3 position here, but that's going to be a lap car in the background and further in the background. But that's also...
That's Vanderwood.
There. Vanderwood, I think, had a spin, and now they have teleported back into the pit lane. Let's see if we have a replay of what exactly had happened there. They're going to be already lost the position to Fabio Sol at some point, and they're just going to be losing their car there. And I think at that point they just decided their tires were completely shot and they had no more pace left, and they just retired. So that's going to be another retirement. We have, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 retirements on the track here as we see a fight happening between Fox and Katie Timberfox here. Katie Timberfox managed to just about get ahead of Fox, and it's going to be the two Foxes fighting between them side by side through turn 4, heading again side by side through into turn 5. That's going to be a better inside line there through Fox first turn 5, so that's going to be them through there, but it looks like Timberfox is trying to hold on. They're trying to get themselves again back in front of Fox there, but I think Fox just has a little bit more pace compared to their fellow Fox driver of Katie there. They're going to be back into P7, now hoping they maybe get back out into P6 and minimize the damage they got from their drive-through. But they had a big bit of overs there, heading on the gravel there on the exit, on the entry of turn 9 there. So Fox absolutely on a mission to get as close as possible to Mooney.
I mean, Fox, from what I remember, they picked the strategy with going for tires, so they are trying to use that pace advantage to redeem what they lost in that drive-through penalty. Meanwhile, Katie Timberfox now focusing back on preserving those tires. I'm not sure if she's going for the no tires or with pit for tires strategy, but regardless, Timberfox has to maintain a healthy gap to Fabio Sol.
The gap is definitely shrinking, though the gap is already shrinking down to only 7 seconds, and we see Fabio Sol consistently getting faster and faster lap times compared to Timberfox here. It's not going to be clear whether or not there's going to be enough of a pace difference for Fabio Sol to get around Katie Timberfox at the end of the race. There's only 17.5 minutes left of the race to go here, but at the end of the race, it's going to be Katie Timberfox screaming for life with those aching old tires there. So that's going to be the big thing for Katie Timberfox. They not only have to be absolutely fast, they also have to be all very clean to keep their tires in good condition. As we see another drive-through happening for Freeway April as well, also for track limits there. So our drivers are definitely pushing those track limits a bit too hard there. Everybody is suffering from it.
Based on the lap times, Fabio Sol is gaining 1 second per lap on Katie, but how long can that advantage last? Because remember, we are still in a hot Barcelona as Fox saves the car. It's really close. That was a Brooking Bronco on the off track, but Fox manages to hold on.
I think they need to talk to their physical therapist after that. My back hurt watching that bouncing happening on the gravel trap there. Oh my lord! Good luck from Fox, able to save their car from that bounce there. But oh, he is absolutely on a mission. They're trying to get closer to Callum Mooney here, and they are absolutely sending it. Again, they had a bit of track limits there as well, pushing on the exit of turn 13 there, but they are getting closer and closer. The gap is now less than a second between Callum Mooney and Fox here, so I think this is going to be a done deal very soon.
Fox and man on a mission, as you saw from that off track. That was the riskiest maneuver I've ever seen. But Fox with a overall pace advantage on Callum Mooney. It could be a dive into turn 4. Fox looking on the inside of turn 4, trying to force Mooney on the outside, but it's not enough. Mooney still remaining ahead, but Fox, look at the tire advantage. They're letting it cling on to the number 22, but Fox doing whatever they can, going for the over-under. They bang fenders, but Fox has the inside line coming into turn 7. It could be the move for Fox, and Fox now is through.
And look at that, that's also Katie Timberfox in the background there. That all this battling happening between Callum Mooney and Fox slowed down Callum Mooney enough for Katie Timberfox to re-enter this fight as well between Timberfox and Mooney here. There's going to be a fight happening between these two for the last 50 minutes here. That's also going to be even though, because you see in the background, that is Sol right there, like a hungry badger ready to pounce on some fox dinner right here. Actually, it's going to be two different foxes as we see. That's going to be Nicholas Zod also spinning on turn 10 here, right in front of Sol. So that's going to be a bit of a slowdown for Sol there. Going to be losing a bit of ground there, but there's still going to be a very important moment. Let's see on the replay what exactly had happened there. Again, that's a very classic mistake that they just pushed a bit too hard on the exit of the corner there, spinning around into the gravel trap here. So a very bad place to rejoin, but thankfully no incident as they spin again, trying to push a bit too hard on the track there. So those stars are definitely not going to be happening here. But this is going to be the big fight happening between Mooney and Timberfox here. But the more they fight here, there's going to be even more ground gain for Sol here. The gap is now only 5 seconds here with 50 minutes of the race to go here. So I think that's going to be Sol getting potentially 2 positions at this point there with their fresher tires here. So Katie Timberfox is absolutely going to be sweating buckets. They're going to have to get themselves around Callum Mooney as fast as possible if they're going to have any chance of keeping themselves ahead of Sol.
I feel like Timberfox has to have Mooney, has to get past Mooney to have that buffer between them and Sol, to have that extra precaution to have that extra car that Saul has to go through. So Katie Timberfox has to play smart around Kellen Mooney to try and find the best maneuver around them. It's going to be really close between these two cars. Timberfox really closing in on the slipstream. It could be a move into turn 10 as Timberfox tries to go past turn 9 to get a better exit, but it looks like it's advantage to Mooney coming off that corner into turn 10. But so far, Timberfox not yet finding the time that she needs to get past Mooney, but Mooney looking a bit loose off turn 10. This could be a moment for Timberfox as she wraps around the outside. It's not quite for the number 18, but the 22 defending really hard across the final section. It could be turn 1. That could be Katie Fox's focus as the two head off the final corner. It's gonna be Callum Mooney, who's a sitting duck now. Now Katie Timberfox on the slipstream, looking much closer, going for the inside, going for the very, very inside. It's gonna be very risky, but Katie Timberfox off into turn 1 and gets the move done.
Beautiful pass from Timberfox to get themselves around Callum Mooney here, but Callum Mooney's still trying. They're still trying to get around the outside through turn 3 here, but they don't have the traction of those tries to cling on there. But they're going to be trying their absolute best there. But no, Timberfox is through. They're going to be getting those in P7. Now it's going to be Saw having to get through one more car, as we see now. Rafael Rodriguez has caught up to Adrian Newt there. It's going to be a battle between the two different cars there. Tin Cat Racing and Crazy Kane out there. Cats versus dogs. It's an utter pandemonium happening here. Adrian Newt is going to have to try their best to hold up that fence from Rafael Rodriguez there, but they're going to be only 2/10 apart, heading through the back straight there into turn 10 there. I don't think there's going to be quite enough gap to make a sin happening there, but Adrian Newt's under pressure here. I don't think there's going to be much more they can do here at this point here. All that Rafael Rodriguez does have those pressure tires here compared to Adrian Newt there. They have the pace advantage. There's going to be down to just Adrian Newt just trying their best to just cling on to that position as much as possible, but they are just struggling for traction. The car is understeering into every single corner there. The gap is still only 2/10 as they go down the hill through 12, now into 13. It's going to be only 2/10, so this could be the chance. I think this is going to be the opportunity for Rafael Rodriguez to get alongside there. This is going to be using that slipstream to their advantage. Adrian Newt staying on the outside line there. They're not going to be defending too much there. It's going to be Rafael Rodriguez, but no, it's going to be Adrian taking that dive on the inside right at the last possible second there, hoping to maybe keep ahead of Rafael Rodriguez there, but no, it's not enough. Rafael Rodriguez simply just has enough grip to get around there, as we see also Vestbox and Lewis Adlin in the only little battle between them. It was also Vestbox through ahead of Lewis Adlin. Vestbox also capitalizing on those fresher tires and trying to regain the position they lost with that drive-through. There's got to be Vestbox now. Time to catch up to Newt.
Vestbox up to P5. That's an excellent recovery drive after that drive-through penalty, but Rodriguez with the overall pace advantage had that move done on Newt, so now Rodriguez has to run away, and Newt is now a sitting duck to another driver going on the fresh tires, and that is Fez Fox, though Fez Fox is 5 seconds down the road, so still a lot of ground to cover for the number 86 if they want to get past the number 272 TGR car.
5 seconds in 10 minutes, that's going to be a tall order for any car to try and mount there. This could be a fight all the way down to the last possible laps here, as we also see Fabio Sol also trying to catch themselves as close as possible to Callum Mooney as well. The gap is now only 1.5 seconds as they head through the back straight here through the turn 10 here. Meanwhile, Katie Timberfox continues to extend that gap a little bit to Callum Mooney here, but it's not extending quite enough. The gap is still within a second here, but this could also work to Callum Mooney's advantage here, because they can get a bit of slipstream from Katie Timberfox there to keep themselves a bit faster, a bit further ahead from Fabio Sol. That's going to be an even taller order for Fabio Sol to get through these two cars who actually might be working together at this point to slipstream off each other there and keep themselves in front of Fabio Sol here. So it's going to be a very, very tight battle with only 10 minutes left of this race to go.
With what you mentioned, I'm seeing shades of Carlos Sainz's strategy back in Singapore. Keep giving the car in this case, the toe to try and get a pace advantage over the chasing car behind, and if that's what Timberfox is intentionally doing, and I think that's going to be really clever, but so far, I think with the gap between them, I think it's just coincidental that Timberfox is right ahead of their horizons.
coincidentally, maybe it's still going to be perhaps working to Calamuti's and Timber Fox's advantage here, but Fabio Sol is looking blindingly quick in that car here. They are still over a second faster compared to Calamuri. They're almost going to
this could be
again,
moved
they're
on.
Go the inside heading into turn 7 there. They're going to be making that dive happen there, and again, Calamuri just has no answer to the raw pace.
Oh, that's a
it's gonna be
mistake!
Sol losing the car on turn 7 there, losing the ground. They had just getting around Calamuri. That's going to be crucial seconds lost to KDT Fox, who is now going to be getting away with it. The gap is now increased to 2 seconds between themselves and Calamuri here, so that's going to be a disastrous mistake for Sol. Now going to have to work again to get around Calamuri to get past Tim Foxer, and the time is ticking, so there's not going to be much more chances for the Badger to get their Fox dinner.
Fabio Sol has been pushing for a while now, so those tires must be screaming for help as Fabio Sol. And that's a drive-through penalty for Katie Timberfox. Very unfortunate for the number 18.
Oh, that is a disastrous result for Tim Fox. They've been doing a magical run so far. That's going to be them toppling down the order, probably behind Moody and Sol at the end here, as we see Sol finally getting themselves through ahead into P7, P8, now going to be net P7 by the time Tim Fox has to serve the drive to penalty. That's going to be the cruel reality of racing here. If you just push those track limits a little bit too hard, that's going to be yourselves a drive-through penalty. Sadly, Tim Fox and Fest Fox, both the Foxes, had to pay for that, but they still have a lot of ground to gain for you. So I think the best thing that Team Fox can do right now is to serve that drive-through right now and try to get themselves around at least Moody again in these final couple minutes.
I feel like Timber Fox will at least have a buffer ahead of Rotianen, so I think they'll be right into P9, but it's going to be very close to call with the drive-through penalty. But we haven't been talking about this driver for a while now. Robbie Kelly on another Sunday drive, just stealing the lead into turn 1 and has been quiet ever since, keeping a healthy gap to Eduardo Alvarez. 4 seconds is the gap between the leader and Alvarez, but so far Robbie Kelly pulling another masterclass. They look inevitable. They look unstoppable right now. They definitely are at a pace of their own here, but I wouldn't call that easy driving still, because you still need to keep your car on the track here, and knowing that you're in the lead, that's going to be giving you a lot of pressure to try and stay in the lead here, not make any mistakes here. But it looks like Kelly is also keeping themselves nice and well under pressure. Now we're going to be seeing Tim Fox going into the pit lane to serve the drive-through penalty. That's going to be very important to see if they're going to be ahead of Rautianen or not. There we see Sol and Moody, both of them getting ahead of them. As we see, it's going to be Zon again, really deep on the exit onto the gravel trap there. Not sure which turn it is, but those tires are going to be absolutely toast at this point here. Let's see on the replay to see what exactly had happened there. I think that's going to be one of the crazy. I think this might be Wolf and Ravenloft there in the background there. They just lost the traction on turn 10 there, spinning themselves around and losing even more ground. So I think all those spins are just going to be toasting those tires to an absolute ruin here. As we now see, Timber Fox has finally served the pit stop. And unfortunately, they are behind Rauten, but it's only 2.5 seconds. So this could be a shootout, a final showdown between these two drivers for the last 6 minutes. I'm not sure about the pace difference between Rotianen and Timber Fox, or whether are their strategies, but Timber Fox still in the top 10 position. That's a very commendable position to be in right now. But at the moment, I'm looking at the time sheets. We have a lot of retirements. We only have 19 drivers running throughout the session, so survival was definitely the name of the game here, and these drivers are giving it their all in the survival game.
Absolutely giving it their all here. We also see Zon just absolutely trying their best to hold off the advance from Embers there, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, because we also see Robbie Kelly in the background. They're trying to get themselves through these two lapping cars there. That's going to be an unfortunate traffic. It's
that's not spinning again.
I think that must be an incident between Embers and Zon right there that caused that to happen. I hope the Suet's not going to be looking at that very soon here. That's also going to be, I think that was April there, or Wolf and Ravenloft there, trying to get themselves unlapped as well from these two cars there. So I think that's going to be something for the stewards to look at.
Yeah, I'm not sure though. I don't think Nicholas Zahn was close to Embers, or at least it was hard to see a position where Embers was close to Zahn at the moment. But Fez Fox looking closer to Adrian Newt now. They have been a second a lap faster than the number 272 and are charging still, so P4 could still be in the table for Fez Fox, but Newt trying to survive on those old tires that have been running, they've been running with since lap 1.
Yeah, they are trying their absolute best there, but it's gonna be only a couple more laps left to go here. Gap is now less than a second between Newt and Fess Fox there, so it's gonna be an epic showdown between Adrian Newt. They're gonna have to put on a monstrous defense to have any chance of holding off the advanced assault from Fess Fox here. Here we go. It's gonna be now less than 7 tenths, 6 tenths heading as they go to the main straight. They're trying to use that slipstream to their advantage to get closer and closer still, so this is gonna be a Adrian Newt sweating buckets in that already boiling hot LMP2 car there as they see that blue and white Simufur LMP2 car in their rear view mirror there, getting closer with every single corner there. Again, another 2 tenths closer into turn 1, another 2 tenths closer in turn 2. It's going to be now only 3 tenths between them as they round the corner through turn 3 into turn 4 there. So it's going to be Adrian just trying to desperately cling on for a couple more minutes there. But I don't think there's going to be much more they can do here, because those tires are just going to be absolutely gone there. The gap is almost a second between these two different competitors here, based on their lap times. It's almost 2 seconds, in fact, between these two cars there. So it's going to be Adrian just trying their best to put their car in the absolute right position to hold off the assault here. So here we go. It's going to be the big fight happening now between the two Foxes.
I'm looking at the gap below. Fez Fox consistently having faster apex speeds, so those tires still in shape for trying to get a move done on Adrian Newt. But Adrian Newt has been doing very well to hold off Fez Fox and to also maintain their tires, but they're going to be really struggling in long corners like these because Fez Fox is just hounding on the rear end. They have faster apex speeds and better corner ability than the 272 car, but Fez Fox looking to have better lines as well. Fez Fox lining up an overtake on the final corner to get a dive into turn 1. That's an off track for Fez Fox, but who cares? Because Adrian Newt is punching a big hole for Fez Fox right now to try and get the slipstream to get the move done, but not quite yet. Fez Fox saving it for later.
Not quite yet. Indeed, Fez Fox pushed a bit too hard on the exit of turn 30 there. They lost the momentum they had, as we see. I think that was very able there, also going off the track here. Another car that is just struggling for traction with these current boiling hot conditions here. The track has cooled down a little bit to only 47 degrees here, but it's still going to be boiling hot for our drivers there, as they're going to be having to fight for another couple of laps here. We see again Fez Fox trying to get themselves closer through these mid-speed corners here, just getting almost into touching distance between Adrian Newt and themselves here. But no, Adrian Newt is holding on there. It's going to be a couple more corners left to go here. Now it's going to be the track profile of Catalonia working to Adrian Newt's advantage here to hold on their lead here. It's not going to be the easiest job to overtake here, but it's going to be getting really close between the two cars. It's less than a tenth between them as they go up the hill here doing the turn 9 there. But looks like Fez Fox had to back out in the end here, losing that momentum again. But this could be another opportunity for Fez Fox. They might make a think of a dive there. In fact, they are going to be having a show in their mirrors here, but Adrian is having none of that. They're holding on their line there. This Fez Fox going to have to again run the track here to try to get around it, as we see a bit of a wiggle on the car here. And every single wiggle is going to be wearing out those tires even more here, as we see also lap traffic right ahead of it. You see those 3 different cars there. That's also going to be slowing themselves down or giving a slipstream to Adrian Newt, so the time is running out there, and now it's going to be that final crucial moment there. We have 1 minute 20 seconds left to go here, so this is going to be the 2 last laps here. It's going to be 2 tenths between these two competitors here. It's going to be now Fez Fox using that slipstream with Adrian Newt punching the big hole in the air here. Adrian Newt's going to try to their best to hold on there. Fez Fox in the outside there. Actually, no, it's going to be Fez Fox trying their best to hold on, but no, Adrian just put themselves car in the absolute right position to hold on their lead here. But now it's going to be the traffic. Here's going to be the crucial moment.
Yeah, Fez Fox with a tire advantage coming to turn 3, trying to get a move done, but they're coming across lap traffic. That was a near miss for Adrian Newt, who almost ran into Nicholas Zahn, but the good thing is they both pointing the right direction still, as Fez Fox still hounding on the rear end of Adrian Newt, touching the grass. That's not going to be good for them, as Adrian Newt going a little bit wide. Fez Fox trying to go for the over-under. They almost blank benders. It could be the move into turn 7. Fez Fox diving into the inside and getting that move done. Licked the stamp and sent it. It's going to be really close. That was a slide from Fez Fox. It's still not done yet, because Adrian Newt tried to get the comeback coming off a turn 9, but I believe that is guaranteed for Fez Fox. That's the position done and dusted.
Talk about licking a stamp and sending it. They sent it so hard into turn 7, they almost spun their car with only 30 seconds left of the race to go here. So that was an absolute send there, but they finally got themselves clear into P4 here. Newt just has no more tires left to make anything happen at this point. As we see, oh, that's Kelly. And that's Kelly and Alvarez, less than a second between each other. And what has happened? Kelly is absolutely miserable with the pace here. Their last lap time was a second slower compared to Alvarez here. So could it be Robbie Kelly running out of fuel? I think it'd be Kelly with fuel issues here. So this could be a dramatic final lap here between not only for P2, but for P1 for the lead of the race here. As we are now out of time here, this is going to be the last lap happening right now between Kelly and Alvarez here. They're going to be going through turn 5. They're going to be chasing themselves down into turn 6 and now into 7, as we see also Saul clearing themselves through. Luis Adeline also going side by side through into turn 1 there, with another fight happening between these two competitors, as we see also Michael Rainbow there in the background there, also going up the background there. But that's not going to be the important thing. We need to focus on this fight between Kelly and Edward Alvarez here. It's going to be a final shootout between these two competitors as they're going to be heading through into turn 10 there. It's going to be only a couple more corners left to go here. Edward seems to have the momentum on their side here as they're going to be getting themselves closer and closer and closer, but they're going to have to get ahead before the last turn here, because I don't think there's going to be enough time to use the slipstream to get alongside unless they get a massive loss, as they're going to be heading through to 12, through to 13. One more quarter to go for Kitty before they're going to be keeping their hands on that trophy. It's going to be a very slippery grip there. It's going to be only 2 tenths between these two cars there. It's going to be a huge slipstream battle between, but it's going to be Kelly in the lead of the race here with only 2 tenths left, 2 tenths between the two competitors.
Oh my goodness, what a battle for the final lap. I'm not sure what happened to Robbie Kelly, but Alvarez was pushing to the line, and unfortunately it was close, but not quite, as Fury April and Nicholas Zahn battling it out. That's Fury April wrapping around the outside to overtake Nicholas Zahn. What a move on the final sections of the track to seal off their race. I believe that's Fury April in P14.
On the last lap, on the second to last corner, through into P14, around P15 of Zahn here. So that was an amazing last lap move there. We also see finally Saul and Adeline just about ahead of Adeline at the end of the race here, heading up in P6 after a huge climactic race between the two cars here. A bit of a friendly bump between these two competitors here. We also see Robert Rautiainen and Tippe Fox here finishing the race in P9 and P10 here. Unfortunate that drive-through penalty in the end slipped Katie Tippe Fox down into P10, but Katie absolutely can be proud of that. So she put on a massive lap here. They're going to be going off into the gravel there. I think after everything she's gone through, I think that's going to be a well-deserved one.
Ooh, pirouette. I feel like she's done her friend proud. Rest in peace to them. And yeah, Katie, I think she's my driver of the day tonight.
Props to Katie for sure. She put almost everything right there. It's only that drive-through in the end that caused her to lose those positions in the end here, but that's going to be a huge congratulations for Kelly as well. Right on the wire there, only 2 tenths between him and Eduardo Alvarez in the end here, separating the P1 and P2 there. So that's going to be another crucial win for Robbie Kelly to extend that championship lead they have of the race here, but that's going to be a good point off for Eduardo Alvarez. Also a very good recovery from Vestfox to start on P4, slip down into P7, but then back up into P4 again after the drive-through penalty. So this has been an amazing race all the way through here, but we can finally breathe a sigh of relief and maybe get some water for our voices.
Yeah, that was a absolutely action-packed race here. We had plenty of incidents, plenty of drama, but most importantly, plenty of great racing. The strategy between pitting for those tires or staying on the original set really paid off when it comes to the battle, and we got very interesting strategic decisions made and very great racing off of this mind games, I guess.
Great racing all throughout for sure here, but that's going to be finally a break for us in commentators here. That's going to be the end of our 3rd round of our Simufur Prototype Challenge here. And there's still a lot more racing left to go here. Next time around, we're going to be heading over into the Mecca of Speed. It's going to be Monza. That's going to be interesting for LMP cars to have around here. So that's going to be something you can look forward to next time around here. And we're also going to have our special lane proof race happening next Friday as well. That's going to be happening. Van Walls around the outer loop, Maurer circuit as well. So if you want to try something very interesting and very unwieldy, I'm going to be honest, make sure to also join the Discord server if you want to spend a late day to race on Friday. But for now, we only have a race here. Thank you everybody for coming over to tuning to our exciting broadcast here. And see you all next week for Monza.
Adios.